Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. Hot tags of the week, plus the end of the year recap. We're kind of combining things here going on. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Hey there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hello.
So this is our last podcast of 2022 that we're going to do. As I said, we're combining things. Normally we would be doing the hot tags at the end of the week, but it's getting close to the new year thing, and frankly, I'm enjoying not having the same kind of schedule. I've been really enjoying not watching these past couple episodes of Raw and SmackDown and NXT and stuff. How you guys been with this whole holiday?
Oh, I hate it.
I'm all positive about it. You hate it.
Unlike you, I don't get to just go, okay, they taped NXT. I guess that means I don't have to watch it. I still have to watch it and do whatever they do for the shows. So no, I'm not nearly as thrilled with it as you are. Callum doesn't watch either way, so he doesn't care.
This is his norm.
Yeah. I mean, I've kept up with AEW. That's the main thing, really. I've actually been watching more Dark Elevation. So
really?
So that's been fun. Yeah, I didn't. Obviously, I had no need to watch Raw because I don't need to see a lot of superstars like introduce segments that I've already seen this last year. And and I have very little interest in watching NXT beyond highlights on YouTube. So, but AEW, I've been watching that stuff. I have a warm feeling actually when I watch Dark Elevation sometimes, just because I get to see some people that I wouldn't normally see. I got to see Frankie Kazarian versus Konosuke Takeshita on an episode of Dark Elevation. It's fucking great.
I would be lying if I said that I've seen any, even like the highlight reels or anything from this past entire week. I was going to click on them, just to double check because okay, Wesley defeats Tony D'Angelo. I don't know anything about it other than he beats him. And I'm like, man, maybe the match is kind of good. Maybe I'll check out the highlights at least. And then when I saw my YouTube feed and it was like, here's what happened on SmackDown and here's what happened on this, whatever, I was like, do I really want to click on any of these videos? And I opted to not bother to watch Dynamite. I opted to not bother to do this and that. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. So like last night, I think was the last episode of that I wouldn't have to watch. And now I'm like, no, I don't want to watch these things all over again. So you're not going to hear much of the usual rundown of this is what was interesting that happened on this episode or something. Sorry for anybody that really likes that part of the hot tags. I got nothing to bring to the table for, the lineup of... What was that?
I want to talk about some stuff. I want to talk about some stuff that happened in the past week or so.
Then you'll be able to. I won't be able to chime in then.
Oh, that's fine.
Was there anything that happened with Cody Rhodes during the Raw recap thing? It was supposed to be we'll hear from Cody Rhodes, but
he talked. There was a recorded, well, I'd say backstage, but a recorded interview of him just talking. It wasn't really much to talk about. He didn't even cry, so that's kind of.
He basically said, "No, I'm not fighting Rollins when I get back," and I want the belt. Those are the two takeaways from Cody. McIntyre, I thought was the most interesting because he said, "I want Gunther in 2023." So I think there's likely a WrestleMania.
I've been saying for a long while, I thought that Gunther versus McIntyre would be the Intercontinental title match. Now, we've heard a lot of things about, it could be Gunther and Brock Lesnar, but to me, it's isn't that Bobby Lashley? Isn't that what you're setting up? And then there's the, John Cena could be in the mix against Austin Theory, or he could be against Gunther, or he could be against Roman, or he could be against this, or Austin could come back and he could do this. And I mean, there's all sorts of things over these past couple of weeks alone. Now a rumor that's going around is that the current game plan is Drew versus Seth or Seth versus Cody for the WWE title on night one.
I had heard that. I also hysterically read the headline, Rock and Roman not completely off the table, which is hysterical because God, everybody and their mother just assumes that's where we're going. And now the headline is, well, we might still go there.
You know what I'm going to say if that ends up happening.
So,
I'm going to Brock Lesnar rule the entirety of WrestleMania. I'll just get the Frank Grimes moment of just, you know. So, I mean, we are just kind of, you know, shooting the shit a little bit when it comes to this. We don't have a set, like, you know, here's the full breakdown of the outline that we're going to run down this episode. But we are treating it as both the hot tags of the past couple weeks, because we didn't do one for the past episode because we did all the awards coverage and everything. And we also had recorded those things in advance. So, you know, there's things that we hadn't came around from the past couple weeks or so, like Bronson Reed's return and everything. But we're also going to be talking about our predictions for Wrestle Kingdom 17 and effectively treating this as a pay-per-view point predictions post. And we're also going to talk about the end of the year recap stuff for Smark Moment. So we're kind of doing a threefer here. But as we do these random discussions and stuff, we want to know what you have to say as always. So drop your thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. If you're listening to this elsewhere, then head on over to YouTube and do that, because that's the best way for us to see what your thoughts are. But if you want to leave a comment on the page on smarkmoment.com, or you want to send us a tweet or something, there are other ways for you to voice your opinions. And another thing that you should be aware of are the things that are over on this marketplace, like the Redbubble and TeePublic shop, so you can pick up some merchandise. Like somebody just picked up earlier today a mask of I Love You 3000, the design that I made for based off of Avengers Endgame. So you got Fanboys Anonymous, you got A Mango Tees, you got Smart Cut Moment, lots of different things that are there. And of course, if you have any ideas of like, hey, this would be a fun merch thing, let me know, and then we'll, you know, try to draw it up or something. We also got Patreon. We got the YouTube members only channel levels. So if you want to join that, get access to the Darkcast and whatnot, that's all available for you. Same thing as the thanks button. And of course, if you just don't have the spare change, hit the like button, subscribe. You know, there's great ways for you to help out that are completely free, other than, you know, these kind of things that I'm mentioning here. But yeah, we're going to talk about the end of the year recap stuff at the end, and we're going to just kind of go through the hot tags things here. The second to last thing we're going to do is going to be those Wrestle Kingdom predictions. So let's talk about all the other random stuff. Then we do the pay-per-view point. Then we do the end of the year recap. And then we say goodbye. For now, at least. So let's start off with trademarks. Because we haven't done that in a little while. We got WWE trademarks and we've got AEW trademarks. On the AEW side, we've got WrestleBowl or Wrestling Bowl. I think this is pretty safe to say this is likely going to be some kind of a thing that they're doing around the Super Bowl, right?
Feels like a TV special, and I would much rather it be its own major show. But obviously, I don't think you can cram another show into February when all roads are leading to Evolution at this point.
And you got Battle of the Belts in January too.
Yeah, which is that next week practically.
Is it already next week?
Next Friday, yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, phew. Lost track of that. I mean, I think that this is probably, they can't get the rights to Battle Bowl, so they're just like, I don't know, Wrestle Bowl. That's an easier way to do it.
I like Super Brawl.
I like Super Brawl too. I've written up, I think, 2 articles this year that I've mentioned that they should have Battle Bowl as part of Super Brawl around the Super Bowl.
Cody owns Super Brawl. That's one of the ones he got.
He can lend it to WWE.
They wouldn't take it.
Triple H might. I mean, he likes war games, so. What do you think about Wrestle Bowl or Wrestling Bowl, Callum? Do you think this is going to be like a Battle Bowl type thing, or do you think it's just sort of AEW Dynamite Wrestle Bowl around the Super Bowl time?
I'd be down for a Battle Bowl type special event. Whether it's just, presumably it would just be an episode of Dynamite or something that spans across both a Dynamite and a Rampage. But Battle Bowl was a weird concept, but it was a cool one. It's something that could work, throwing together some interesting Franken teams and putting them together. I think that could work. That could be a good way to find a more interesting challenger for the tag titles than Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett.
Mm-hmm. And you never know if somebody's going to be like, they click really well, then they become like that Strange Bedfellows normal type of tag team. Like,
yeah.
Who would have thought that, you know, the Roadie and Billy Gunn would have ended up becoming the New Age Outlaws, or that, Cesaro and Sheamus doing their best of 7 series becomes the bar,
Yeah, so especially if they were to do something like that around the Super Bowl, would be interesting. So yeah, I'd be down to see that as like some sort of special event. Wonder what Frank and team would come out of it though, if that is the approach they're taking.
If they get an announcement, around a time frame that we can do this, of course, then maybe we'll do some kind of a little recording of like, hey, what teams do we think would be really interesting or something. But off the top of my head, if they did like a Battle Bowl type thing, I think that they definitely should go into like the weirder possible tag teams. Like, I don't want to see like necessarily Wardlow is supposed to team up with Samoa Joe, where it's like, all right, I get it. It's as easy as you can go. I'd rather it be something like Wardlow is teaming up with I don't know,
Serpentico.
Yeah, Serpentico, or like the Butcher is with Brian Pillman Jr. Like, where you're just like, well, okay, I don't get it quite yet, but play around with it, I mean, obviously you gotta keep some people heel, keep some people babyface, kind of, they don't get along, so that's why they lose their match. But like, yeah, I'm down for Lance Archer teaming up with Brandon Cutler and seeing if they can work out together. Something to keep our eyes on, as are the WWE trademarks. Now, these, I feel, are maybe revolving around the exact same thing. This is the first impression that I got for them, at least. They are all heart, all in, inspire the impossible, from dreams to destiny, desire, determination, destiny, and where the stars align. I feel like this is all just possible ways to do like a Cody Rhodes documentary or something.
If they bothered to trademark 5 different terms for this, I did think about Cody. When you're thinking of a wrestler, I thought Cody immediately. And then I thought, hey, is it time to just update the WrestleMania branding a little bit? Like, we don't really call it the granddaddy of them all anymore. Showcase of the Immortals. Like, yeah, you could say WrestleMania, where the stars align. WrestleMania, from dreams to destiny, which is a great tagline for a Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns match, by the way. But, I think it's more in the WrestleMania branding area, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think that the Cody Rhodes thing makes sense. The most interesting thing I saw about the trademarks is that they've been signed up for esports usage.
Yes. Thank you, Cal.
I didn't notice that part.
As well as for professional wrestling use. And that makes sense in a world where Stephanie McMahon is on the board of directors of FaZe Clan, which is one of the bigger esports teams, or at least one of the more notable teams. So maybe their taglines for new WWE branded esports teams. I don't know. It could be anything. The Cody Rhodes thing makes sense, but to be honest, it's not something that particularly interests me one way or the other. I don't know. I don't think they come up with 5 if they're going for the Cody Rhodes thing, other than the fact that they just have absolutely no idea what they would call a Cody Rhodes documentary, unless they're doing a 5-part Cody Rhodes documentary and they're all built around their own titles for it, which I think would be, even for Cody Rhodes, I think it's a bit much.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would go with all 5, but we've seen trademarks before where they just sort of disappear after a little while. Sometimes it's like a name and then nobody gets that name and then they end up going with something else, or, things are labeled like for merchandise use, and then it's being like a pay-per-view or whatever. But I mean, all in being one of it, all heart, all in, kind of strikes me as like, all right, this is the documentary of Cody Rhodes being like, I left because my heart wasn't in it in WWE. I went all in elsewhere, and then I came back, and now I'm all heart, all in. Inspire the impossible. I mean, he's the guy that said from undesirable to undeniable. So all that's like desire, determination, destiny. You got like from dreams to destiny means like, American Nightmare, American Dream, where the stars align. He was Stardust and all. So it's all kind of striking me as that, especially because of the whole rumor that like we might get Cody versus Roman, or we might get Cody versus Seth, or something around that WWE or Universal title situation, Which that alone, if to go back to that, I don't know if I buy any of that necessarily, but on top of it, if it is true, they've kind of ran out of their options at this point to split the titles, haven't they? Wouldn't it kind of be weird if they just sort of like at Elimination Chamber, they're just like, Roman can't hold both belts anymore. I'd be like, what? Why?
Yeah, but I've been telling you that since they merged them because they have shown zero intention of wanting to merge the belts. And they've said things, through reports and whatnot, but they've shown zero intention on TV where somebody goes, I want that one.
Right.
As opposed to like, I want to be the undisputed champion. So
the only thing I can think of when it comes to that is maybe, if there's truth behind this, maybe the plan is Cody Rhodes wins the Royal Rumble and does that. Maybe he's like, no, I want the WWE championship. I don't give a shit about the Universal one. The WWE one's the one that means to me. And or they have like some kind of like 2005, 1994 thing where it's like, oh, Cody Rhodes and The Rock were the last two and they both technically win. So one can challenge one night, one can challenge the other. Like maybe they do something like that, but they they haven't done anything at all that indicates to that at all. And they could have done the Money in the Bank. They could have done the ladder match idea that everybody's talking about. Nothing. So, I mean, the only thing that indicates that they might split it up is that they haven't yet made it one belt.
I just think that they're waiting for WrestleMania.
Which could definitely be the case.
Because, like, people are weird. I saw a clip of Young Rock where apparently The Rock had a replica of the Undisputed title on his shelf in the show, and people were like, they're foreshadowing, he's going to win the belt at WrestleMania. Like, fucking let it happen before you start booking things that will make you upset when they don't play out the way you want them to. That's the way I look at that. But I do want to say to Callum, thank you for acknowledging the fact that these things were trademarked for esports usage and that Stephanie was on board of directors for FaZe, because that is how I framed it in the article I wrote on Fightful, because when you're doing these trademark articles, you have to find some kind of a hook. And I just appreciate that Callum noticed the hook. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Send hook, right?
Send hook.
We'll keep our eyes on those, maybe as much as this Friday night's episode of SmackDown might end up indicating what's going on with that. And maybe even tonight on Dynamite, they might say something about WrestleBowl. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match, please. Let's talk about this, because where I first heard of a Pitch Black match was on an e-wrestling news article written by this guy, Tony Mango, who's, I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? Who has said Bray Wyatt's going to be in a Pitch Black match? And sure enough, I pay for YouTube Premium, so I don't get ads, kids. But sure enough, somebody got a YouTube ad that basically said, Royal Rumble at the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match. Anything can happen. It's like, oh God.
The fact that it's a Mountain Dew inspired thing makes it even worse, because it's like...
makes it even more cringe.
Yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that, of course, when they announce it and when we get into our predictions for Royal Rumble. But generally speaking...
Don't announce it. Fuck that. I hope
they'll announce it. They'll definitely announce it.
I want Bray Wyatt in the Rumble. I don't want him facing LA Knight in a Pitch Black match. What are we doing?
It's going to be a crossover with the LA lights. Those shoes that light up to get rid of the pitch black part of it. Yeah, some bad stuff like that going on. We have a follow-up when it comes to the wellness policy thing with Matt Riddle. That was one of our last hot tags we had talked about, which now it seems like they're adjusting the wellness policy a little bit, which essentially, if this is true, what it comes down to is that they're like, oh, fuck, that third strike thing might actually apply to some people, and we don't want to fire them. So how about we get rid of that third strike firing? Yeah.
Basically, if we're being honest, the third strike firing doesn't apply to whomever they don't want to apply it to. Like,
Randy should have been fired.
Randy and Mysterio had the ability to like work them off. And these days, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't get popped because they were probably popped for weed. But
Wasn't there something with Mysterio where they said like, well, he was technically not under contract, so they reset or something, and then I forget the Orton excuse, but it was like you're making excuses for it, and that's okay. If you don't want to have your own thing be third strike is firing, then you change it because it's your company. You can decide to do what you want. But it is kind of funny that it's like, I mean, we don't know for sure if the Matt Riddle thing, of course, allegedly, blah 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 blah. When it comes to that, it seems like it might just be like he got his second wellness policy release, so that it's like, well, he might get a third, and we don't want that. So, but we just go a third that's another slap on the wrist, or a forced rehab thing or something. That's the best thing to do, is to if somebody's got some kind of problem, to get them into the rehab. But it is kind of funny that at this point, like, I've stopped really tracking the suspensions, and I mean, I got the page on smark.com, but it's not the same as what it used to be. Right? Yeah. I mean, if you look on that page of suspensions, the list from 2022 is 3 different things, and then 1 kayfabe, or 2 kayfabe and 1 normal one. The Sasha Banks and Naomi. 2021 was all 3 kayfabe ones. Like, you go back to like 2016, and it's just like Del Rio, Paige, Eva Marie, Paige again, Jerry Lawler, etc. Adam Rose, Connor. Different times.
Yeah, but overall, they can do whatever they want, like you said. I actually hadn't heard about this policy amendment, but if that's what they feel they need to do, so be it. I hope Riddle is getting whatever help he needs in whatever way. And as we said on the podcast the last couple of weeks, he was a bit overexposed, so maybe some time away is good.
And there's some reports going out there that Riddle's situation is just that he's taking time off because of the divorce and everything. And then you've got like ex-girlfriends all talking trash on social media, and that gossipy stuff isn't something that I'm super duper into. So I usually don't track that too much. And I'm sure plenty of other people are, doing deep dives on that, but I honestly don't care when it comes to somebody's personal life like that. And like, you can, bang whoever you want to bang, and I'm not involved. I'm not a third party in that. So, yeah, if you find anything interesting and you want to talk about it in the comments, go ahead. But that's not something that I've really been tracking for the hot tags. I do have on here though something that we should gotta go back and talk about, because I know that Rob is a fan of this idea. Bronson Reed coming back to help The Miz beat Dexter Lumis and get his money back and everything, and now we got big old Jonah Rock on Monday Night Raw.
So I'm a fan of portions of this. I'm not crazy about everybody sort of just getting slapped with The Miz. It's really interesting that like Miz is the gateway guy, but I like Bronson Reed. I've made no bones about that. Hopefully he can be a fun mid-card champion, maybe even someday world champion, when eventually we have full-time world champions again, in 10 years or whatever. But like, yay, Bronson Reed is back. I don't feel as stupid for that draft pick all those years ago.
Callum, your thoughts on Bronson Reed's return?
It's obviously the move that he wanted to make. I guess he never wanted to leave WWE in the first place. He was forced out, so he wants to go back. All I know is that they had him beat Okada in the G1, and now he's the Miz is lucky. That's kind of that's the way it goes, really, in WWE. But like, I think that he's got really no hope of ever being a world champion in WWE. I think he's got very little hope of ever being a mid-card champion in WWE, if I'm being totally honest. I just don't think he has it as a personality. I think he obviously has it in terms of size and build. They'd have to build him up as a complete and total monster for him to actually get that kind of reputation. But he's WWE is a land of giants, and there are plenty of other ones that have more of a tenure and more of a presence about them than he does. So he's going to have to work hard to build himself back up. I think if he'd have stayed in New Japan, he would have been a world champion eventually. And just think that he doesn't have, because of his work ethic and his in-ring ability, that definitely would have helped him stand out more in Japan. Japan does value these big gaijin characters.
Like Tensai.
Yeah, like Albert. Yeah, that's
what a
like
shout, bro.
Yeah, it's an area where Albert can become a big deal. Whereas, I thought Jonah would have fit in very well, but that was Jonah. Now to call him Bronson Reed again. Can't go back to Jonah now. But yeah, I don't think it's going to make waves immediately. But I know a lot of people obviously, and I've just done that as well, crapping on the fact that he's now just the Miz's sidekick. But being aligned with the Miz does mean you basically guaranteed TV time every single week because the Miz is always on TV.
This led to a bit of discussion about like, okay, does the Miz suck or is the Miz actually good because he's always featured? And obviously that's going to be in the eye of the beholder, but I can say this, I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of over everybody getting paired with The Miz. I hope The Miz never wrestles Dexter Lumis on my television screen ever again. I hope The Miz don't wrestle Gargano on my television screen for quite a while. I'm desperately ready for the Royal Rumble. We need to get rid of this December crap that is
lull.
Just flooding the television. It's so bad. 3 hours is too much when you've got to fill it with Dexter Lumis and The Miz.
Yeah, I will say Bronson Reed's debut came about in one of the worst episodes of Raw of the year, I think. Like, it was one which Actually, I don't know whether that was I can't remember if that was the good episode of Raw or a bad episode of Raw because they all kind of blend together a little bit. But I know there was basically zero reaction to him debuting. Like, pretty much everybody in the crowd felt like they were just watching someone they'd have absolutely no idea who they were, which is, again, another clear indication, as if it needed to be said. People who watch Raw don't watch NXT.
And I think, like, Reed was gone for over a year, first of all. Second of all, people weren't really watching NXT in that last year by the time AEW came around. Like, people knew Gargano.
Yeah, because he was a big featured, one of the core members, like Adam Cole and Ciampa. And
featured, so...
But Bronson Reed came not that long into NXT. I mean, his North American title reign was like 3 weeks or something? Like, it was like nothing at all. So his highlight just basically was right when he was leaving. And then, I mean, he wasn't somebody who had been featured on like tons of posters. He wasn't in like main events of takeovers or anything.
I'm glad he's there. I think there's room for him to do something cool. It all depends on what they want to do with this draft. Same thing with the world title situation. Everything depends on what they're going to do after Mania, and I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate already going, well, just wait until after WrestleMania, and then we can get cooking, because I'm tired of this already.
Yeah,
and I want something good now.
The doldrums of wait 5 months, which is like, that's half the year. Come on, guys, The road to WrestleMania should be the most important and best, and a lot of times it's like, well, we're waiting. We gotta wait until the Royal Rumble before something happens, and then we have to wait until Elimination Chamber before something happens, and then we have to wait until Mania because the time after that's just sort of waiting until Mania. Now, as far as the speculation on people coming back and everything, Bronson Reed was one of the most recent examples, but now there's some chatter online of Eva Marie possibly coming back, and I don't buy into it.
Why?
Because apparently...
Tell me what she would do right now.
She had apparently liked some tweet about Hunter saying he's got more people coming back or something. I don't know the full thing, but I was just like, you know what? I don't think that there's actually much to it, because I can't picture that Eva Marie is somebody that's more aligned with what Triple H has in mind rather than what Vince did. She's not good in the ring. She's not somebody who's got any kind of big social media following type thing that they can really capitalize on. Like, I was going to say like Logan Paul, but Logan Paul was better in the ring too. So, I mean, on top of that, there's that. But like, she's came back a couple times, and each time that she's done that, it hasn't worked. I don't think it's happening. And if it does, I think it's a waste.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring her back. I don't think they have plans to. I think there's a way to use her, but like, I don't feel like allowing them the time to figure that out.
I don't even think that there's a spot for her. Like, we know she's not good in the ring. And then the Dewdrop thing with her trying to be the manager, I don't think she did a great job with that either. She can't be on commentary. She can't be a backstage interviewer. Like, what would she do? You know?
I could buy into them bringing her back because that's
What do
all
you do
Triple
with
H. That's all Triple H has. All Triple H has is bringing people back that were previously fired from the company. What I have her do? Pretty much what Maxine Dupree's doing, which is pretty much nothing. But she's employed, so that's the she gets that one big pop for the return, or what you can, I guess, classify as a pop for Eva Marie. Like, she gets that one big return. She is involved in an angle for like 2 weeks, and then she disappears from the face of the earth, pretty much like Emma did.
Well, Emma's hanging out backstage with Madcap Moss.
Yeah, and it's apparently going to be the female side of Scarlett's first televised match in WWE.
Oh, did they announce that?
Well, no, but that's clearly the direction. Yeah,
I just didn't know.
Oh yeah. You only read the SmackDown spoilers. They did a backstage segment where Emma slapped Scarlett.
Okay.
And they've been doing a lot of shows on the on house shows and live events. There's been a lot of mixed tags between those two.
A lot of practice matches. Then we'll end up getting a match that looks like they didn't practice.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know what, though? Since we mentioned the house shows, and I have nothing more to say about Eva Marie, Bray Wyatt did return to the ring in the Garden, and people were excited, and I just feel like, hey, let's get to the point here so I can not have to say Tony was right. Because we're not getting to the point here, and you know?
And Tony's been right. How many weeks has it gone by with he's just being like, man, and I don't understand why I'm so upset all the time. So just being like, I get it, dude. You're doing the character again.
So another man in a really shitty mask comes out instead. At least not him in the mask. It's just another guy in a really bad looking mask coming out.
So he can just go like some kind of N64 character in the background laughing on repeat.
I mean, I was gonna say, like, I actually don't want Bray to be in the Rumble, because then that means he might have a chance of winning it. And no way I want Bray fighting for a world title match at WrestleMania. Like,
that's true.
Yeah, this guy sucks.
First of all, let's just say it now. I hate you, Tony.
That makes two of us.
I'm so bored now with what Tony was. Like, Tony's been right about Bray Wyatt the whole time.
Yeah.
It's just like taking this long for
fucking
us to accept it. Yeah, he does suck. He does.
Like, this should have been the biggest thing, and they're literally just doing exactly what the detractors said they were going to do, and it's like, fuck. They're right. Like, Bray Wyatt hasn't done a thing. I did the SmackDown show last week with Kate, and even Kate was like, yeah, I'm kind of over this Bray Wyatt thing. And God knows I'm just fantasy booking my way through it, because I'm like, well, maybe this leads to something where, like, Uncle Howdy's actually Bo, and we can do something with Bo, because Bo never got a chance. Because, like, this all just sucks. And to have his first match be against Jinder Mahal, where he doesn't even do, like, the Sister Abigail in a cool way. He just sort of casually walked up to him and said, okay. The whole thing is kind of a dud, and I kind of hate it. You know? Like,
it does say something. The most interesting thing about Bray Wyatt's return has been the stuff that's been happening with Alexa Bliss instead.
Yeah, which I, of course, don't like to begin with. So it's
no, but at least that is. I don't want to say it's interesting, but there's
something to it.
Progression. Yeah, there's progression happening with that. She's like, the things happening, and then that's causing her to have a reaction to it. Whereas Bray's just coming out every single week, cutting the same promo, and sometimes LA Knight's there, and sometimes he isn't. That's kind of it at the moment.
And LA Knight's promos in response are pretty much just like, "Hey, fuck you, Bray. Why are you attacking me?"
I have not liked what they're doing with this Bray Wyatt thing, and I'll say the reason I want him in the Rumble is because maybe you put him in the Rumble and he gets cooking, and we get something going. Because if you're just gonna really slow burn him to Mania, that's the last thing you did, and then you burned him on the way to Mania, literally. And I don't want to see it. I would rather see something else that happened at the Garden Show, a fucking fatal 5-way match for the Intercontinental title where it was Gunther, Shinsuke, Escobar, Kofi, and Ricochet. Like, put that on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this as a house show?
It's kind of interesting that they did this whole thing of the World Cup just to come back to Ricochet gets another chance to win his title belt, loses.
Yeah, but at least he had a banger match.
Yeah.
I don't mind tournaments where the winner of the tournament loses. At least they got something out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect him to win the title, but it is interesting that they went with like the World Cup's going to be a means to have a rematch, as opposed to because they've been setting up this whole thing with Braun Strowman, and it's like, well, if Strowman would have won and then he gets a title shot, that makes sense. Or, you go with somebody wins and then they come over from Raw, and that's the reason why, or you know what I mean, like one of those kind of deals. But for them to just do that, it was sort of like, okay, so you spent a couple of weeks to have a rematch. It was a good match though, so yeah, I can't really complain about that. And it's good to see Ricochet getting some treatment of like, yeah, you deserve to win some things every once in a while. Who knows? Maybe he'll be in a tag team with Bronson Reed by the end of 2023. So
they're gonna put him in a tag team with Braun Strowman.
Maybe. I mean, you got to do that. We don't like each other because I do the flippy shit and you don't like the flippy shit thing, and then they become they see eye to eye.
They already settled that because they had the match in the World Cup tournament which Ricochet won, and then they became friends.
Yeah.
Then they beat Imperium in that Miracle on 34th Street fight.
That's right. I didn't watch that match. Was that good?
Yeah.
The
fine.
Street fight.
Street fight, yeah, it was kind of fun. They did a thing where the New Day were dressed as Nutcrackers, and they hit Imperium in the nuts.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fun. They had Samantha Irvin kiss Ricochet because they're actually dating. A lot of fun, but no, overall that episode of SmackDown sucked.
Did they acknowledge why Samantha has so much more fun saying Imperium and everything rather than Ricochet?
No.
So what other hot tags do you guys have in mind before we switch over to the pay-per-view stuff and the feedback? Callum, you were talking about, there's something about on the Dynamite side of things you wanted to kind of recap?
So last week's Dynamite. I mainly want to gush over the main event because Jamie Hayter versus Shida was awesome. It was
they had a good wrestling match.
It was one of the best women's matches they've ever had in that promotion.
Yep.
I would go so far to say, and again, I know that it's recency bias, and you got those. I think it's one of the 10 best women's matches I've seen in the last 5 years, 10 years, maybe even. Could go back like super far to days where like the very random number of like All Japan Pro Wrestling and women's matches that I've seen featuring Minami Toyota and stuff like that. But to have that kind of like strong style women's match, it was the closest women's match I've seen in the equivalent of, in terms of just the physicality at the start of it, to an Ishii and Shibata match, where just two people beating the shit out of each other for about 5 minutes, and then they just get into the actual wrestling, and then like suplexes onto the floor, and I love the series towards the end was very New Japan, because it was essentially Jamie Hayter takes down Shida, gets a close 2 count, takes her down again, gets another close 2 count, then just hits the essentially her equivalent of the Rainmaker, and then pins her. So it wasn't a traditional flash pin out of nowhere. It was okay, I'm going to beat you down and keep pinning you until you stay down. And yeah, I just thought that it worked really well. It was great to see the women in the main event and have such a great main event as well. The rest of the stuff on Dynamite was, well, we got Ricky Starks and that Jericho interview segment, which was great as well, because it just shows that they're not dropping the ball on Ricky Starks. They decided, okay, we can't put the World Championship on you right now. So what we do is if we want to feature a top guy, but we can't put the world title on you, we put you in a feud with Chris Jericho. And that's kind of that's the approach they take. And now he's going to be feuding with Jericho and Jericho Appreciation Society, which should be fun. I think Ricky, because of his immense promo ability, will be able to hang with Jericho very well. And they're having a match, not on today's Dynamite, but next week's Dynamite. Yeah, first one of the new year, so that'd be fun. That's on January 4th as well, isn't it?
It is. Big day for wrestling.
Yeah. So, other stuff. I mean, they're continuing to. They had that Rampage match. Rampage actually got a good number for a change, which is weird in terms of just rating. But I think that was largely built around that. What was it called? It was
Say the
the
name.
free. Yeah, I can't remember what the name is of it.
The
It was
Three
too long.
Kings Christmas Casino Trios Battle Royale. That's
Yeah.
sorry. The $300,000 Three Kings Christmas Casino Trios Battle Royale.
Yeah, which is I thought that was a bit. It was quite disjointed. Like I was getting a bit anxious by the amount of time there was before new teams being coming in. Like that was, it was just like, okay, this is taking a while for this next team to come out and do it. But it was quite interesting. They had Top Flight win it over Claudio in the end.
Yeah.
So that was, and then I think they're having a tag match, aren't they? Is it on Dynamite or next?
It's on
Rampage?
Dynamite tonight.
Oh yeah, it's a Top Flight versus Moxley and Castagnoli. So that'll be fun.
Yeah,
I
your match 6 of the best of 7 happening tonight.
Yeah,
Yes,
which should be a lot of fun as well.
yeah, so it's gonna be Falls Count US, so they'll be all over the building, which will be fun.
And obviously the Elite will win there, and then we get the ladder match on the 11th, which again, how can you go wrong?
And we'll,
like-
yeah, and that's one of the things we will talk about is whether Kenny Omega will come into that match with another piece of gold wrapped around him.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
I'll say this: the women's match, definitely without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, the best women's match non-stipulation they've ever had in that company, and it's about time.
Yeah, I'd put it on a parallel with Hater versus Storm from Full Gear. I thought that was like an excellent match as well. But yeah, there was one bad thing, one pretty bad thing on the Dynamite, which was the Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland segment.
Oh,
So what happened with that? Because I didn't watch it.
So Rick Ross called Keith Lee a motherfucker on a live mic.
First of all, that was a great moment. Rick Ross looked right at Keith Lee, and into the microphone goes, "You a big motherfucker," and just okay, like.
Keith Lee's reaction to that was great as well. It was just him going like basically just cutting his throat and stuff like that, saying, "Oh, better turn this mic off." He's gonna. But then it was Swerve. Essentially, he now has 2 new henchmen with this Mogul Industries.
Mogul affiliates.
Mogul affiliates. And then it's so one of them's Parker Boudreaux, so Harland. He's moved away from the Trustbusters into Mogul affiliates, and then this other guy, who I have no idea who he was.
Graydon Goatsman. He's some kind of former football guy.
Brandon Great, the Goatsman.
Yeah. Brandon the Great Goatsman Williams.
We'll get a name for the Great Goat or whatever he is, and this wasn't the best way to split them. This played out super awkwardly,
yeah.
And it feels weird that Swerve now has 2 bulky heaters instead of just, handling shit on his own.
I think it makes sense for him because he's on the smaller side. As much as charismatic as he is, it makes sense they'd have some more just bodyguards more than actual teammates alongside him. I will say the one good thing about the segment outside of the motherfucker line was how accurate he was breaking a cinder block over Keith Lee with the foot stomp. That was really good.
Pinpoint accuracy.
But yeah, that was. I just wanted to talk mainly about the Hater and Sheeta match because it's definitely something that if you haven't seen, you should go out of your way to check it out because that was great.
So Mogul Affiliates is the name of the faction, and it's Swerve Strickland, Parker Boudreaux, and what's the name of this other dude?
Fuck here, maybe look it up. Graydon Goatsman. Look, I don't know his name.
Jones.
He literally showed up out of the blue, and then people were reporting afterwards. I think Sean reported his identity afterwards. I believe they said he trained with Jay Lethal. That's where this guy comes from, but he's a former football player. He's tattooed from head to toe.
Grandin Goatsman.
Goatsman Jingleheimer Schmidt.
His name is my name too.
This is like one of those Bort situations where it's like, oh, my son's also named Grandin Goatsman.
You know, it was the you know that he was just an absolute nobody because Excalibur didn't even know who he was. If Excalibur doesn't know who you are, then like you're just an absolute nobody.
So he was a former baseball player.
Oh,
Football, baseball, sports.
Let's see what we can find out on this guy.
Football.
Former professional baseball player and Florida native. I see he's Florida man. He was he played for the Rays. Was a compensation pick from the Oakland Athletics. I don't know what some of these things are. I'm reading on this like I don't know what the Oakland Athletics are. But I guess he's the thing. So I guess I gotta add him down to my list of tag teams for 2023. And Parker Boudreaux is not in Trustbusters anymore, so that's just Ari Daivari, Slim J, and Sonny
Kiss. They don't bother to explain that. Like, he's still doing matches on Dark as a Trustbuster because they probably just said, I don't know, you. Because the whole thing felt very disjointed.
So heads up when it comes to those lists, everybody. I have 51 posts set to go up on January 1st of things like, like the list of tag teams for the AEW roster, the WWE roster, the WWE and AEW normal roster pages, the heel and face turn list, etc., etc. When it comes to January 1st and these things get up there, if anybody wants to browse those and notice any kind of things that I don't have right, let me know. Because at this point, especially AEW, it's so hard to keep track of like, all right, is the Kingdom officially a part of the roster or not? And are these people technically still a part of that tag team or are they not? And what the hell's going on with Angelico is now a part of another group with Serpentico and with Chaos Project and whatever. So I guess he's not in there, but he's again teaming with them still. And if anybody notices anything like those, you let me know. We'll talk about that in a week or so. But yeah, you think that there's anything that's worth me going back and checking out? That the women's match in particular, maybe?
Watch the women's match. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. Maybe watch the opening with Starks and Jericho. I think you'll have fun with that. Stokely Hathaway called Bryan Danielson a raggedy bitch. And I think that that's funny. I don't really have much to say about Rampage outside. We already talked about the Battle Royal, which I thought was the best part. And like I said, SmackDown was meh.
So what's even coming up on these next episodes?
Well, SmackDown has John Cena.
Yeah,
that's
the
hook.
Oh, that's right. It's the 30th episode, yeah. Not 30th episode, December 30th edition.
The last episode of the year, yeah.
Raquel's gonna lose to Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah.
Sheamus against Solo Sikoa, it seems.
Yep, it should be fun.
Yeah, that'd be a good match.
But most importantly, John Cena's wrestling.
Yeah.
And that should be a really good match. And I think that we will have our world title match for the Royal Rumble by the end of that match. Whether it's Kevin or John, I think we'll have our world title match.
We've got on Raw Rollins against Theory and Belair against Bliss for those two titles.
Right.
So I'm not expecting either of those titles to change hands.
And then next week we've got Ricky and Jericho at least announced for Rampage, and then they'll announce 5 other things tonight to kick off the new year in a good way for them.
Anything announced last night on NXT for this next episode?
Oh yes. Oh my God. First of all, they're gonna do the Grayson Waller effect with Breaker, and they've come up with a new stupid word for a Falls Count Anywhere no DQ match, like
What's
an
that?
extreme resolution match.
Just call it Extreme Rules.
No, damn it, we're calling it
the resolution. It's the resolution of a rivalry or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how they justified that.
Fuck me, come on.
Yeah, so that's happening.
Who's that face?
That's Alba Fire and
Isla Dawn, right?
Isla Dawn, yes. Yes, it's an extreme resolution match. They're also going to do Trick Williams and Axiom, Apollo Crews, and Carmelo Hayes and Charlie Dempsey and Hank Walker. But most importantly, it's the Happy New Year Extreme Resolution match.
Yeah, out of all of the shows that are happening in the next couple of days, that's the one I'm probably least looking forward to.
That sounds about right.
I mean, like on Sunday, we've got Nakamura against Muta. That should be a lot of fun. You have to subscribe to whatever you need to watch Noah on, because that's a lot of fun.
You know, if anybody's going to ask me if I'm going to watch it, what my response is?
Noah?
No, I'm not. But it's probably going to be a good match. So, you know, I mean, I'm just not subscribing to anything. Screw that.
There also was confirmation from Nakamura in an interview with Yahoo that they had originally said no when Vince was in charge, and then Triple H was in charge, and they said yes, and good things are good.
Well, speaking of these kind of other promotions and stuff, let's switch over to our pay-per-view point predictions. And I just realized that I didn't create a graphic for this, so you're going to get the hot tags graphic that goes along with this, because I'm not going to make one up on the spot. So Wrestle Kingdom 17, the January 4th episode, or pay-per-view, I should say, not episode, is coming up on January 4th, funny enough. And there are 12 matches currently announced for it, with some of those being people that I've never heard of in my entire life, and other matches being, oh man, that looks like that could be really good and stuff. So you're going to get a wide variety of on my end, and then Callum explaining what's going on, and Rob echoing what Callum's saying and all. So let's start off with the pre-show matches. There's an exhibition between Ryohei Oiwa and Bolton Oleg.
So I can't really say too much about this beyond the fact that Ryohei Oiwa is a young lion, and so he's just your typical young lion. He's got a bit of buzz surrounding him, but you know, comes out with the black trunks to generic music and wrestles a pretty standard style. The Oleg thing is interesting, because I don't know whether his name is Bolton Oleg or Oleg Bolton, because I've seen it written both ways on different websites.
New Japan right now, I'm looking at it, says Oleg Bolton, but on Wikipedia it's Bolton Oleg. So
yeah, see, I can't tell with New Japan, because New Japan have a tendency. Well, a tendency is the Japanese way of pronouncing things, where they go surname before forename, and so I really do not know. It would make more sense to me if his name was Oleg Bolton, because Oleg is a name that I'm aware of. As the first name. So I'm going to assume that his name is Oleg Bolton, and I'm just going to refer to him as Bolton for the time being. But he is a amateur wrestler who, as I think he wrestled at this year's World Amateur Wrestling Championships and finished 5th. So he's not the best amateur wrestler right now, but he's one of the best. And he was introduced by Yuji Nagata recently, and yeah, this will be his first match. And it's an exhibition match. It's only going 3 minutes. So we'll see what they can do in 3 minutes.
So most of the websites I'm seeing are referring to him as Oleg Bolton. He's there on SmackDown Hotel, on Wikidata, on Instagram he's Bolton Oleg. On UWW he's Bolton in all caps. So I'm assuming that's last name. On flowwrestling.org, he's Oleg Bolton. I don't know. Fucking Bolton Nana is.
Yeah. Look, he looks like a guy who could beat somebody in 3 minutes, and I wonder if he'll get the job done.
Yeah, he looks the part. We'll just see what as it'll be like 3 minutes. It'll just be a pure, probably quite amateur to the mat style match, unless they decide to completely subvert all expectations and he just comes out swinging. But I doubt that's the case. I think he's going to come in. There's going to be a lot of takedowns, double legs, that kind of stuff. And 3 minutes, you can get a lot done in 3 minutes. So we'll see. It'll probably end in if I give me a prediction, I'm going to say it ends in a draw.
Really?
Well, it's 3 minutes. It'll end in a time limit draw.
I'm going to go with Oleg and or Bolton winning.
I will say, I'll play the safe and say it ends in a draw, but I think Oleg is going to look like he's very close to winning.
Currently, I'm not finding any information on the participants of the New Japan Rambo. Do they usually not bother to announce them in advance?
It depends. We're still about a week away, so they might wait until like very, very close to time. But it could just be a thing that they're just going to surprise people with who enters, because they typically have like loads of weird people coming. Like, I'm trying to look what the Rambo match from last year was. So the Rambo match from last year featured Aaron Henare, Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Chima, Dookie.
Wait, who? Who was the last one?
Dookie.
Yes, his name was Dookie.
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay, I'm like, did I hear that right? You just flat out to say Dookie? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going back to the what's it?
Yeah.
No Holds Barred, just Dookie.
Hiroshi, yeah.
Give me a minute to laugh. I'm a fucking child.
Yeah. Kozei Fujita, Master Wato, Minoru Suzuki. Oh, Ryohei Oiwa was in this match. He was in the Rambo match last year, so he's taking a step up to having his own match. So that's good. Satoshi Kojima, Taka Michinoku, Tatsumi Fujinami, who's about 70. And he can't be in that match because he's in the next match we're going to be talking about. So that's Togi Makabe, Tomoaki Honma, Yuri Toriyano, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Yuji Nagata, Yuto Nakashima. So yeah, it's usually a bunch of either their legendary ones or very lower card people that are more comedy wrestlers. And this is to win the
Provisional
the right to
KOPW 2023 Championship.
Yeah, so they'll get to challenge for this. And yeah, so I imagine it's just going to be some comedy wrestler that isn't currently booked somewhere else in the card. And I'm just looking, and I cannot see that Toru Yano has a match, so I'm going to go with Toru Yano winning this match.
Sure, because he's stuck to this trophy, so yeah. They have a belt now, too, at Ugly.
Other ones I could see, because it's usually, as I say, it's usually the comedy. This is the thing that we were talking about last time, the King of Pro Wrestling, which is the one where you get to just choose gimmicks to matches, and the crowd vote on which gimmick they want to go with. So I think they had a match on a recent show. It was Taichi versus Shingo Takagi in a last man standing lumberjack match.
Wait,
Which actually,
so
what?
How does that work in particular?
Well, if you get thrown out of that ring, it's a lumberjack match, but it's a last man standing. It's a last man standing.
Okay, so you don't also have to knock out the lumberjack so that you are officially the last man standing. Okay.
No, funnily enough, that match got a 5-star rating by Dave from Dale.
I bet the fuck it did.
Right now, Bruce Pritchard's just having a shiver.
Yeah. No, I loved it because it was just it put through all of these memes, sort of like, and all these memes people talk about it, and says, guess how many out of Taichi and Roman Reigns, guess who has the 5-star match out of these two? It is Taichi. But Taichi's another one that could win it because he's been tied to this title for a bit. I mean, Shingo doesn't have a match. Actually, does he have a match? I think actually he's in a... No, actually, yeah, he's in... Oh, no, he's not in a match. So Shingo could be in this match as well. He's currently holds the King of Pro Wrestling, so he might be involved in this. Yeah, there's a lot of, like, I think you could have... what's his name?
Ishii? Is he in a match?
Yeah, no, actually, yeah, Ishii isn't in a match, so yeah, he could definitely be in it. You've got El Fantasmo, I think could be a good shout for this as well, because he has kind of those comedy traits about him. Got, I imagine you could have Hikuleo in this, the giant of the kind of the what would you call them? The Gorillas of Destiny family. But because Tama Tonga's already in match, so he won't be involved in it. But yes, yeah. No Fale, so yeah, Fale could be in that match. No Minoru Suzuki, so he could be in this match as well. So basically,
in the Grandpa match.
Oh yeah, he's in the Grandpa match. Sorry, I missed. Yeah, I missed that. He is in the Grandpa match, so he won't be involved in this one. So you basically you're looking at pretty much all of New Japan's undercard and veteran wrestlers outside of the ones that compete in the Grandpa match that we're going to be talking about in a little bit. and they could very much win this. So yeah, it's New Japan Rambo determine who will challenge for the provisional King of Pro Wrestling Championship at New Year's Dash, and so New Year's Dash, I assume that actually Shingo will probably be defending or because he's the current holder, will get the opportunity to defend it on that show. Oh, it's a 4-way match, so it's like literally could be anybody. I always forget that these always start with a fatal 4-way. The provisional King of Pro Wrestling champion is always determined by fatal 4-way.
Really? Why is that?
Yeah. That's just the way that the first one went, and they've just kept it as a tradition ever since. Because the first one was between, I'm trying to remember now, I know Okada was in it. Yeah, Okada was in the first match. It was, so they had 8 matches to determine. It was like a mini tournament thing where Okada, Toru Yano, El Desperado, and Sonada won the qualifying matches and then won the Fatal 4-Way. And then Yano won the Fatal 4-Way, and then it's gone on since then. So I don't know how it really works where you can in this one match, and presumably only one person is winning in qualifiers, or 3 people winning it, or is it ending with the final 4 and all 4 of those people going to it? I guess we'll figure it out. But
and the Year's Dash is coming the next day, right?
Yeah, it's the day afterwards. The show, always the show following New Japan. Yeah, so January the 5th. So yeah, my guess would be that it would be the final 4 people in this match would be the people fighting for the title at New Year's Dash. In which case, I don't really know whether it's even worth predicting who a winner would be. Because,
I sure as fuck don't know.
Well, yeah, I know, because like literally we don't know who's going to be competing, and it could literally be anybody in the New Japan kind of undercard. There could be a young lion. There could be people from New Japan Strong. There could
or
be
people outside of the company.
Yeah, could be some randomers appearing from AAA or
Impact or something.
Yeah, actually CMLL they don't have a relationship with AAA. So either from CMLL or Impact or even AEW, because there are AEW people on this card already.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm calling it. This is where Sasha Banks returns and wins the King of Pro Wrestling trophy and title. It'd
be quite fun if she like jumped the gold rail and just got inserted into the match. That would be, but yeah, I'm going to say that at least one of the 4 people that can be in the final 4 of this will be Toru Yano. That'll be my official prediction.
I think that's a very safe bet, and I'd like to take that bet with you.
Let's make it a 3 then. If he's revolved around it, then it makes sense. It's kind of like saying, who's going to potentially hover around that 24/7 title? Is R-Truth going to be in the mix? Yeah, Let's go to the 6-man tag team match for the Antonio Inoki Memorial setup that they got going on. Yuji Nagata and Satoshi Kojima Togi Makabe? Togi Makabe?
Togi
or Toji?
Togi Makabe.
Okay, well, I got some of the letters right. And you got Fujinami, you got Suzuki, and you got Tiger Mask. I don't know anything about what's going on with this, but I'm
yeah.
I've heard the names.
Well, I mean, the main thing to get out there is Antonio Inoki passed away late last year, and this is a tribute match involving 6 of the biggest veterans in New Japan currently. So Yuji Nagata, multiple-time world champion, like huge big deal back from like the 90s, wrestling for WCW as well as New Japan when they had their relationship together. And yeah, he's just been a standout name in the company for decades and decades. Satoshi Kojima has actually been doing more stuff for I'm trying to remember. It's not Noah, I don't think.
All Japan?
It might be All Japan. He's definitely been doing work outside of New Japan for a lot of this year. And I don't know whether he's a current... He definitely was a world champion sometime last year for a different promotion, but I don't think it's for... but definitely not for New Japan. He's definitely... but he's a former world champion as well, but he's moved down. He's now just, again, veteran status. Same with Togi Makabe. All 3 of those people are former world champions. So that's a big deal. Tatsumi Fujinami, like I said, he's nearly 70 years old, I think. But he's somehow been wrestling multiple New Japan shows in recent years. Still in well, considering his age, in phenomenal shape for someone of his advanced years. Tiger Mask, one of the he's been around for. This isn't even the original Tiger Mask, but it's been one of the Tiger Masks that's been thrown down. I think he's Tiger Mask 4. Off the top of my head, that might be inaccurate.
Yeah, I think
but
the fourth one has been the longest one.
Yeah, and he's been around. Yeah, he's been just a standout and continuous name in the junior division primarily. And then Minoru Suzuki, which is funny enough, probably the only guy of the heavyweight side in this match who hasn't been world champion. And it's an interesting period for him because he announced recently that his faction, Suzuki-gun, who have been one of the they've been a pillar of New Japan faction wars that have been going on for the past decade plus for years and years and years. But he announced a couple of weeks ago that they're going to be disbanding, so they can all go on to do individual things or join other factions. But he's essentially said that they all want to focus on their own individual interests now. So his faction is ending, leaves him a bit in the wilderness. So I don't know really what's next for him. But he has said that he still has eyes on becoming the world champion, which would be kind of a feat at his age, because I think he is approaching 60 now. Don't know the age off the top of my head, but I think he's
definitely over 50.
Yeah, so he's 54 now. So yeah. So it would be surprising if he became world champion at this point, but I wouldn't hold it against him. If there's one man that I think could win it, no matter how old he is, it would be Minoru Suzuki. But yeah, this will just be a nice, very traditional 6-man tag. They'll all do their own classic spots that everyone knows them for, like the Kojima chops into the corner. Nagata will do his eyes rolling in the back of the head submission move. Very Undertaker-like. And Suzuki will just beat the shit out of everyone because that's what he does, and just forearm people to death. I think that they will probably give this to the. There's not really babyface on this side, but I assume it will just be
the non-Suzuki team.
Yeah, Nagata. Yeah, I'd say Nagata's team will win.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. And who doesn't like watching, relatively physically fit old men beat the shit out of each other? And that's what we're gonna do here. So,
you're selling me on it with that. Relatively fit old men.
It should be a lot of fun, and I think it's cool that, as it was known, this event, Inoki was supposed to become, I think, NJPW president for life prior to his passing. So that's a really cool way to honor him as they go into their 51st year. And it's a good way to use a lot of the people on the card. I would not be against more stuff like this as long as it made sense.
Let's go over to the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. One of those belts that I'm like, why do you have this?
Merge.
Leo Rush and Yo against TJP and Francesco Akira. Francesco, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Catch 2. Is it supposed to be like Catch 22? Catch 2-2, 2/2.
Yeah, I believe so. I think that's. I don't know how it's pronounced, but I think that's the kind of connotation.
Catch 2 in a second, 2.5. Yeah, I don't know. I'll go Leo because why
not? Well, so Leo Rush and Yo won the junior tag team tournament they had recently to earn the shot at this TJP and Francesco Akira, who've been good junior tag champions, nothing amazing, but then again, they never really care. They don't care about the actual tag team titles, so they're then really not going to care too much about the junior ones either. But this should be fun. Leo Rush is great. Yo is bland but good wrestler. TJP and Francesco Akira are very good wrestlers as well, so it'll just be a fun cruiserweight style tag team opener just to whet the appetite. And
all the flippy.
Yeah. From Leo and Yo, definitely. I think TJP and Francesco are more mat-based wrestlers. I mean, you like TJP.
Yeah.
He's never really been the most aerial cruiserweight in the world. But it'll be a good technical match as well as some flippy-dippy to get people excited. And yeah, I think that who cares? The champions will lose. That's the attitude that everyone else has to these titles. So I'm just gonna have that attitude. Champions lose. New champions. Yeah.
All belts always change hands at Wrestle Kingdom, so new champions.
Kind of seems like that's the case.
Congratulations to Leo Rush for getting another championship.
I like you say that before the next chapter we're going to talk about, where a title definitely might be changing hands.
With the exception of one, and we'll get to it.
Well, that is Ospreay wrestling. No, we're going down the list on Wikipedia. So Kairi is defending the IWGP Women's Championship against Tam Nakano.
I'm sure it'll be great. Listen, I love Kairi. Kairi's awesome. Tam Nakano's great. Kairi has to win here.
So she can have a match with Mercedes Moné. Yeah.
And on the next show, which is a secret show, by the way, New Year's Dash, they're not telling you any of the matches, Mercedes Moné will defeat Kairi and win the IWGP Women's title.
Yep.
It is kind of a bit. I mean, obviously, it's great that the former Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné, is likely to debut at this show. It's been announced that she will be appearing at the show and will probably confront Kairi and become the figurehead for New Japan's new women's division, or like women's championship, through their relationship with Stardom. I do think that's a little bit
little shitty that Kairi doesn't get a title reign.
Well, no, even beyond that is the fact that this is the first women's match that's ever happened on a Wrestle Kingdom show.
And we're all talking about Sasha Banks.
Yeah, and we're all talking about someone who we don't actually even know is going to be involved 100% yet in this, rather than the fact that this is a huge moment where we're going to see two women wrestle for a newly formed championship on a Wrestle Kingdom show. Kairi's obviously great. We know, as people that have watched through NXT and WWE, as well as previously watching a few bits and pieces of Stardom, how awesome that she is. And Tam Nakano is a great wrestler. And she's been wrestling for a long time in Stardom. I think she's been wrestling for close to 10 years, maybe. So she is really good, and they're probably going to have a great match. And it's just going to be overshadowed by Mercedes coming in, hopefully. Again, we don't know for certain that will happen, but it probably will.
It seems like it's basically like a guarantee.
Yeah,
it
seems like given, but I don't want people to get their hopes up and then think that, oh, you told us that Mercedes is going to be there.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, everyone else told you Mercedes is going to be there. So
I'm not telling you Mercedes is going to be there. Mike Johnson said, hey, she's going to Wrestle Kingdom. All right, well, let's see. But here's where I think it finally all matches up. The Monday episode of Barmageddon is the one featuring Sasha, right? So after that, maybe they can finally go, okay, and she's not even here anymore, and we actually wish her well on her future endeavors. And by the way, here she is on Wednesday in New Japan. Because I think that's the only reason they haven't said, hey, Sasha's not here, because they have to advertise her as WWE superstar Sasha Banks on this Barmageddon show with Nikki Bella.
I've seen like 2 minutes of that. It's so fucking bad.
It's different podcast. I think it's, first of all, it's great that women are getting a chance to compete in New Japan.
Yeah, it's cool.
Long overdue. The world is changing. I'm glad they're getting on board with it. It's wild, the rumors that we have been hearing about Mercedes getting more money than Jericho, even though Jericho heard that and then immediately outright denied it. I think she deserves whatever the fuck she wants, and go get your money because you've earned it. That's kind of how I feel about Sasha. And then I think she and Kairi will kill it because they killed it during the pandemic where nobody was watching. They were having great matches. So I think it's super cool. I hope that she's healthy. It would be terrible if it was like first match in and injured, So I hope she stays healthy. I hope she's happy, and I hope that this leads to whatever the hell she wants. She wants to go to AEW, by all means, go to AEW. She wants to just do music and wrestle in Japan, do that. You've earned it.
Do you guys think that she is going to effectively be a heel?
Yes.
I think she'll be Bullet Club.
Ooh.
So Sean Ross Sapp did an interview with Jay White, and Jay White said, I would love to talk to Sasha Banks about joining Bullet Club. I think Sasha in Bullet Club, while maybe this is too little too late, would give Bullet Club the one thing that they have not had, and it's a really strong women's performer and a really strong, reason for women to be invested. So if they do it right, they could revitalize Bullet Club just by adding Sasha.
I like that idea. You're going to sell a lot more t-shirts too.
Yeah.
So we're all going Kyrie, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes.
And let's go to another belt that's going to change hands, I'm assuming. FTR against Bishamon for the IWGP Tag Team Championship, because I think that FTR is in the tour of losing their belts.
Probably. I wish they did more with these belts. I wish they did more with all the belts. I could never get enough FTR, but it does feel like they're in the tour of losing their belts. And good on the boys for getting the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, I think that it does feel like they are currently just dropping belts in the lead up to potentially leaving AEW, if all the speculation is to be believed. Again, there's something about Yoshihashi and Hiroki Goto in that they're both two very capable wrestlers. Goto in particular is very, very good. With the right opponent, he can have an excellent match with anybody. But I think that they're just boring. They're just there, and they've always been there, and they've never really evolved or changed too much. And so I'm not super enthralled with the idea of them being the ones to dethrone FTR, because it would just be another bland title reign. But that's realistically all they do with the tag titles. They just pass it around between bland tag teams. The most interesting thing they've ever done with those belts in the last 10 years, to my memory, is give it to FTR, a team that isn't actually contracted to them. So, yeah, I'm not super interested in what will come after this, the reign that will come after this. But I think the match itself will be good, because FTR don't have bad tag team matches.
I agree. If they were to win here and lose it to another team on the Secret Show on January 5th, who would you like to see them lose it to?
I mean, I wouldn't really like to see them lose them in general. I think if they're leaving AEW, I'd prefer if they just signed with New Japan. But, that's probably not going to happen. If there was a team that I'd say lose it to, I always liked Dangerous Tekkers, Zack Sabre Jr. and Tai Chi. I thought they were always a good team.
Granted,
but
Suzuki Gun's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So that won't happen. Maybe. I'm trying to think who. I guess Aussie Open. I know they've already had that match between two of them, but Aussie Open are one of the best tag teams not signed to a company permanently at this point in time. So I think that would be a good one. Maybe Gorillas of Destiny, if they don't decide to go with Tama Tonga later on in this thing. And I don't know when Tonga Loa is going to be healthy again. So, but yeah, at the moment there isn't really a super standout tag team to take the titles from them.
You heard it here first. They're merging it with Leo.
I mean, I'd be down for it. They don't need both belts.
Sasha Banks is winning that too.
I think that I think they'll probably lose here just to lose it. But as you just mentioned, Tama Tonga is also on this card, and that's a crazy match in itself, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think we got a couple more before we talk about that.
Let's talk about it. Why not?
Yeah, move it down.
So, Never Openweight Championship is going to go to Tama Tonga because Carl Anderson is in WWE, so he is definitely losing.
Okay. Anderson wins because they got a secret show the next night, and you got to keep these motherfuckers guessing.
I think that it's definitely some interesting aspects to, especially the Triple H regime and how its relationship with New Japan or Japan in general, or other promotions even in Japan or anywhere else really, because at least there seems to be some inkling that there might be some more fluidity, and I think a lot of people on the WWE side of things would be happy for that fluidity. Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, and AJ Styles probably among them, and Shinsuke Nakamura. But I think that the likelihood is you'll have Tama Tonga win because Tama Tonga's been screwed out of the World Championship recently, and I think they really want to push him as a top babyface for the company moving forward. And credit to him, he has stepped up considerably, both in his look, in his in-ring performances, his overall personality and character. I mean, he's always been a bit of a chaotic character and has had charisma about him, but I think he's channeling it now more better than he ever has. So I think it makes sense to make him the never openweight champion, even though I think Carl Anderson was the guy that lost it to Carl Anderson a few months ago anyway. But that's often how they kind of work things in New Japan. That's how they tell stories. So yeah, I think Carl Anderson will lose, but it could at least be the inkling of a future time where we can see a couple of WWE names on New Japan shows. I would love to see AJ Styles wrestling for New Japan again. That'd be fun.
I think that's what everybody's dreaming about right now.
Let's backtrack to the World Television Championship. The inaugural champion is going to be either Ren Narita or Zack Sabre Jr. And I don't know anything about Narita, so I'm going to go with Zack Sabre Jr.
It would be a hell of a feather in the cap for Narita, but I think it should be Zack Sabre Jr.
This is the second match on the show that has a time limit attached to it, or at least like a more condensed time limit attached to it, because all matches in New Japan have a 60-minute time limit if it's for a championship, but this one has a 15-minute time limit. That's the idea of the television title, which is going to be more of about fast-paced, younger wrestlers getting things done in a short span of time, even though 15 minutes is actually quite a long time when you think about wrestling matches. But on a New Japan level, 15 minutes is actually pretty condensed. So Zack Sabre Jr. so far in the tournament to crown this champion has defeated Alex Zane, David Finlay, and Evil, and has had so it's mainly like some decent level wrestlers, people that you'd expect Zack Sabre Jr. to defeat. But Narita has done he's a Cinderella story character because he's beaten Ishii, Toriano, and Sanada. Three guys who are very heavily pushed by New Japan. Toriano, obviously, more as a comedy character, but still pushed. He's a former multi-time tag team champion. Tomohiro Ishii's won the Never Openweight title multiple times. He's relatively pushed. He's fought for the world title multiple times. Sanada's fought for the world title multiple times. Former Intercontinental champion, I believe, and US champion. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's definitely won loads of titles and is relatively well pushed, and they've had Narita beat these people. So they are telling the story that Narita has worked his way through from being basically starting this tournament as a young lion to ending it as a established guy. So it would be a good way to end it by having him beat Zack Sabre Jr. and just really, really establish himself. It's okay, we really are going with this guy now. But I think that Zack Sabre Jr. deserves a championship in New Japan, because outside of the tag titles, I don't think he's ever won a singles title with New Japan, which is crazy considering the fact they do push him pretty heavily. He's won the what do they call it, the New Japan Cup twice already, which is it's a tournament which wins you a world title match at the second show after Wrestle Kingdom. So yeah, I think that he would be a very good inaugural champion to have. Very capable hand, will give great matches to people, and will put someone over very strong at the end of it. So yeah, Zack Sabre Jr. is the winner for me.
You too, Rob?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, as Callum so eloquently said, Narita, this would be a great way to push him. But also, you want to put some eyes on your belt, you go with Zack Sabre.
This is an ugly championship. I'm looking at it now. Ugh.
Look at the one for the King of Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, that was ugly too. I looked it up. I think we actually even did a hot tags episode where that was one of the main things. Me talking about how this ugly New Japan belt is. Apologies about the sirens. You needed to get that on an episode. Let's go over to the 6-man tag team match, which is going to be Muta's last match in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's teaming with Tanahashi and Umino against Naito, Sanada, and Bushi.
Good for Shooter. First of all, like that's a hell of a two people to be teaming with, and I love Muta. I wish I got to see him work more, and I'll love everything he does until the day he retires, which I think should also include a Royal Rumble.
Do you think there's any chance that it actually happens?
Well, they sent Shinsuke. Hey, give us Muta. We want the Royal Rumble. That's me fantasy booking because I just love him. But yeah, obviously he's gonna win. You know.
I believe his the match that he's labelled to be his final ever match happens before the Royal Rumble.
Well, his final match is Muta, will be January 23rd, but his final match overall is February 23rd.
Okay, so in which case he could appear at the Royal Rumble then, which would be interesting. But yeah, this will be a bit of a showcase for Muto to do some cool stuff, but not put so much the onus on him, which is good because at this stage of his career, his knees are pretty shot. Like, he still can go relatively well for his age, but I mean, talk about it, he was like, I don't know, last year or the year before that, he was the All Japan Pro Wrestling World Champion. But that's because I think he has a lot of sway backstage rather than the fact that they actually thought that he would be a good choice to be the world champion. But yeah, putting him with Tanahashi, who is the just evergreen, constant, like, top star ace of the company, and Shota Umino, who is, again, you don't want to put too much pressure on a guy, but he is, this last year has built himself up really well to be someone that they could rely on to be a top guy moving forward. Maybe at least starting in the junior division, but maybe eventually moving his way up to heavyweight. And then Naito, Sanada, and Bushi, Los Ingobernables, they're going to be, they'll just make this fun. And I don't think it's going to be too serious or hard-hitting a match. It'll be more of just some fun stuff with some good wrestling thrown in. It's always good to see Naito against Tanahashi on a card because they have this like eternal rivalry between the two of them. But I think Muto's team will win, most likely. Have Muto pin Bushi. That's what Bushi's there for. Bushi's always there to be pinned.
It sucks.
Yeah, but every single faction has someone who's there to be pinned.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Muto just because, if it's their last match, you want to kind of either do the honors on the way out, or in a match like this, a 6-man tag, then, you get to celebrate. I have no idea about the 4-way match for the Junior Heavyweight Championship. Ishimori, Desperado, Takahashi, and Master Wato. I have no clue who the last two are. I know almost nothing about Desperado and almost nothing about Ishimori. So the belt stays where it is unless Desperado wins. There you go. That's my random ass pick.
So what happened? Why is this belt on the line in the 4-way?
So what was supposed to happen, or at least my belief is that it was eventually meant to be Taiji Ishimori versus Kushida, but then Kushida got injured. And you'll see that this is quite funny. This is only Taiji Ishimori's, I believe, second defense of this title, which he won back in May. So he hasn't defended it very often. And I think that is firmly due to the fact that he was meant to defend it against, and probably lose it to Kushida, but Kushida's just been out of action for so long that they just haven't found anything else for him to do in the meantime. So, yeah, I think that this match should be fun because they have had 4-way matches for the Junior Championship on Wrestle Kingdom before, and they've been fun. I'm a big fan of Takahashi. He's like the pillar of this current iteration of the junior division, so he will bring it really well. I'm a huge fan of Desperado as well. I think I don't say he's underrated at this point. I think everyone at this point knows how good he is, but he is a very solid base to work from. Will be more of the powerhouse in this match. Taiji Ishimori's fun. I don't really see as much as what some other people see in him, but he's like a fun enough performer. And I'd be fine with kind of all three of those people winning the title or Taiji Ishimori retaining, as long as it doesn't go to Master Wato, who I just don't know what he's doing in this match. And I don't know what he's doing in New Japan, quite honestly. I don't see anything in him. He doesn't have any character, and any character he does have is pretty off-putting.
You would not have given him the rank of master?
No. And again, I only see him in like fits and bursts because I'm not really following his arc generally. I can only recall like my initial impression of him was that he was absolutely terrible. And it hasn't really changed that much in the few bits pieces that I have seen. He's better than he was, but that's not saying much. And I hope that he doesn't win the title in this one. But yeah, my hopes would be it'd be Hiromu or El Desperado because they're a good name to build your division around. I assume that Hiromu will probably win because he's the biggest star out of the four.
Yeah, I think Hiromu gets it. He's kind of married to that belt.
Let's go to the IWGP United States Championship Heavyweight Championship match.
Might as well be the main event. Look, I love Okada and Jay White, but this might as well be the main event.
Will Ospreay against Kenny Omega is definitely at least in contention to be the match of the night, if not the show stealer for sure. I think Ospreay's going to retain.
I hope not. I want more from Kenny. Go ahead, Cal.
I mean, I definitely want more from Kenny in New Japan. And I don't think him losing here necessarily would end that. But I think it's very interesting the way they've built this up. So I read an interview that Kenny gave with New Japan, like one of those kayfabe ones. But they do it in a very... It's one of those kayfabe ones which has truth behind it, because that's the way they kind of roll with New Japan. And his whole interview was more about he's coming back to save New Japan. Because ever since he's gone, New Japan has become stale and boring and hasn't developed any stars. And they've had to rely on people like Will Ospreay to come in and fill his shoes. And the whole thing that he's been saying is that Will Ospreay has done his best, but he's not Kenny Omega. And it's that very like condescending, like, okay, good job, kid. Golf clap for you. You tried your best. Now let me come back and show you how it's done. So if the way that this eventually has to end, this has to eventually end the feud, and I'm talking about the feud itself. The feud eventually has to end with Will Ospreay beating Kenny Omega. That has to be the way that it ends up ending, because otherwise you're just burying Will Ospreay, who's one of your top guys. But it doesn't mean that the first match he doesn't have to win this and retain the championship. You could have Kenny win. And Kenny has rightly said again in that interview that the US title was essentially crafted for Kenny Omega. He was the first champion with that title, held it for many months after that, before then being elevated to the world championship picture. And yeah, I think that it would be really cool for both AEW and New Japan to have Kenny Omega hold the title again. Have him come back to New Japan sporadically. I think it'd be good for Kenny. I think even though he obviously enjoys being in AEW, especially after the last year or so, probably would be kind of inclined to the idea of maybe occasionally going back to New Japan, going back to Japan itself and just being there for a little while. So I could definitely see that happening. If he's the 6-man tag champions or trio champions in AEW, it means he doesn't have to wrestle all the time. He'd come back to New Japan for a big show every now and again. I mean, the Bucks have a gateway to get back to New Japan as well. So yeah, I think it would make sense to have Kenny Omega win, but I would not be surprised to see Will Ospreay retain. All being said, don't really care who wins. This match is going to rule.
So you had a pick gun to your head when it comes to this, Rob. You going Ospreay, you going Omega?
Oh my God, I'm going Kenny Omega. I think no matter what anyone wants to say about AEW, the whole reason New Japan had that boom is because of Bullet Club. And Kenny Omega became must-watch wrestling, and it became like, how can we get this guy in the States? we all thought that like New Japan was gonna be all right, when AEW was formed. No, New Japan has sucked. If we can get Kenny and Sasha as resident New Japan champions for a while, New Japan for me will become must-watch TV, or however you want to frame that. And I think that Kenny should win here.
I'm going Ospreay.
It's a safe bet as well, because like he's very, very protected by New Japan, and again they've told the story about Kenny kind of talking down to him. So what better way to, if it's just a one-off match, the best way to go about it is to have Ospreay win.
So. Plus, I think that the back and forth between AEW and New Japan, I mean, they might have their good back and forth with different things, and who knows what's going to happen with like Forbidden Door or something. We could have Kenny Omega win this title and retain it, and then have a match at Forbidden Door, in June or something for the United States Championship. But I kind of can't imagine that they're going to go with like a double champion thing, because I think that the Elite's going to win those trios titles back, and I mean that might not even be the call of Tony Khan when it comes to that. It could just be like, yeah, well, you know what? New Japan wants you to hold that title, so there you go. But I'm going to go Ospreay. If I'm wrong, whatever. Yeah, I don't have money on this.
Well, why not?
Mostly because I don't have money. And our main event is going to be Jay White defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Kazuchika Okada, which, of course, look at those two. They're going to have a good match and everything, and I'm assuming that Okada's going to win the title back.
I think Switchblade should win. I like him. I think he's done a lot of good for New Japan, and I'm hoping that they don't fall back on what's comfortable in Okada. So I'm going to go Switchblade, but I could be wrong.
I think Okada's going to win. The reason why I believe Okada's going to win is the story they've told throughout pretty much the entirety of Okada and Jay White's rivalry, which has been many years in the making, is that Jay White has Okada's number. I think Okada's only beaten Jay White once, one-on-one. I think they've wrestled about 5 or 6 times, and Jay White almost always beats Okada. But I think that what they're going to do is have Okada win, because at the end of the day, he is the top name in New Japan. He is their ace. He is their biggest star. He is, when you have the World Championship on Okada, it means a big deal. And also, Okada has never held this title before. This is the New Japan World Championship. This isn't the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. So he has never held it. I think that it's about time he does. They haven't really had him as, even though he has always been presented as one of their top guys, he hasn't been the top guy in the promotion for several years now. So yeah, it'd be good to have him be world champion again. It is comfortable, but it is new because he hasn't held it for a long time. And I think that sets the groundwork for Okada versus Kenny Omega at Wrestle Kingdom 18 for the World Championship.
Fuck it, do it. I'm bored. Like, it was the greatest match ever.
If it's not Kenny, I think it'll be someone from AEW, or it could be someone.
Bryan Danielson.
It could be Bryan Danielson. I think it could be Hangman Page. It could be Jon Moxley. Fuck it, it could be AJ Styles. Because I think there seems to be some breaking down of barriers, and I think New Japan might sense an opportunity to become the middle ground between AEW and WWE. It's like, you're never going to see a WWE guy on an AEW show, and you're never going to see a WWE guy on an AEW show, but you could see both of them on a New Japan show.
Our business.
Like, they're the forbidden door. The professional wrestling is New Japan.
You said that Okada never won this title. Wasn't he champion last year?
Was he champion last year? Oh, actually, yeah, he was the. Oh, yeah, he was the guy that Jay White beat. I got that confused. I assumed that he hadn't won it, but yeah, he was the guy that Jay White.
So he has held this unified belt.
Yeah, he has held this unified belt. Yeah, but but I still think. I mean, Jay White's been champion like 300 days, so he's been champion for a while. He actually has only defended it twice, which is funny, and one of them was at Forbidden Door. He
That's
defended it
ridiculous.
once. Defended it once at Forbidden Door, and then defended it against Tamatonga a couple of months ago.
He's had it for a year.
Yeah, pretty much for a year.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. I don't know why. It's been yeah, so he won it at Dominion, which was in it was like 2 weeks before Forbidden Door, so it was in June sometime. And then yeah, has held it ever since.
That's right, because the original promo, Hangman called out Okada for the world title.
Yeah, so maybe it's not 300 days. This thing saying it's 300 days is probably close to like 200 and something. So it's been a while, but he hasn't defended that much. And also, he's been in the States quite a bit. He's been like in Impact as well for a little while, and he's done stuff with obviously AEW as well. And he's been doing stuff on New Japan Strong, so he hasn't actually really been in Japan that much. There's a lot of people that are suggesting that he might. There's that stupid fake Rumble sheet that went around with.
Yeah. Listen, he's very good. I think he's main event wherever he wants to go.
Oh yeah,
I don't see him leaving yet.
He's a top guy, and he's very young as well, and he'll be a top guy for a long, long time. Like if Okada and if Ospreay and Omega don't have match of the night, then this will be match of the night. And I think either way, you kind of can't go wrong with these two as your double main event. But I have Okada winning.
I got Okada winning too. What about you, Rob? You're going Jay White?
I'd like to see Jay White win, but given everything that I was just told, I'll say Okada.
Alrighty, well, those are the matches that are currently lined up for Wrestle Kingdom, which we may or may not do some sort of follow-up in some fashion down the line. I mean, we more than likely will probably do it on the hot tags because the likelihood that we're going to do some kind of like post-show at like, it's 8 a.m. or whatever the hell this ends.
Don't pretend like you're not up at 6 a.m.
Yeah, but do I really want to do a podcast at that point? That's the thing. Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe we'll do like a Darkcast partial watch along or something. It'll depend. We'll see. We'll let you know if something pops up. And you should obviously be subscribed to Patreon and everything like that to know if that does pop up because, especially on the YouTube channel membership, if we go live for something like that and it ends up being like a live members only thing, then you can't figure that out unless you are. So make sure that you do. Well, we are going to wrap this up with our end of the year wrap up. 2022 year in review. This is the first time we're doing this separately from the awards. Usually we do that as like the end of the WWE awards, but it doesn't really make any sense. So I realized, why are we doing that? Let's do it as part of the hot tags. And to be perfectly honest, this is a year that we have less to talk about when it comes to that. So it's not like this is something where we're going to break down, major changes to the website in some different ways that we've done over the years, or we don't have like the feedback survey that I had up didn't resolve, a bunch of issues, or it didn't bring up a whole lot of things. Not a whole lot of responses, and I'm disappointed in that, to be perfectly honest. So I'm going to leave it up for people that if they're just like, oh, actually, yeah, I totally forgot that I was going to fill that out. I still do want to know your feedback. That's kind of the whole point. It's not just to get, a certain amount of responses. It's to get all of the responses I could possibly get. So we are going to essentially just break down what some of these things had said, talk about some of the analytics for anybody who's interested in just like, what happened in 2022 and Smark Out Moment, and some ideas of what we have going forward for some improvements and some changes and stuff. So one of the things we had on here was, what is your most favorite segment of the year? And funny enough, the hot tags won that poll on there. But I mean, hey, cool. We do this every week, so I'm glad that you guys like them. Wasn't something that I would have voted, because if I did vote, I would have voted for more of the things like the mock draft and the fantasy booking and all that, which they did get their votes too. Yeah, we got some votes for one more match. We got a vote for Belt or Bury, which I thought was pretty interesting. We got a vote for the Superstar or Porn Star section of Play the Game. Would You Rather? The heel and face turns, of course. The title changes. Superstar scores. Tier list. Time Machine Dream Team. The mailbag. Mount Rushmore. Another one of my favorites. And the awards and everything. So, it seems like for the most part, you guys are liking what we're putting out when it comes to that. and not any votes for some of the other ones that I was expecting. Again, I thought if we got more votes, I'm sure we would have gotten more of a variety for things like the fantasy league or for things like the one to watch or something. But generally speaking, if you're talking about what your favorite things were, what do you guys think?
It's the drafts. It's the draft, and it's getting a chance to just fantasy book a bunch of random shit, and it's probably also Mount Rushmore. I enjoy anything that allows me to, get into a really good discussion with you two.
Yeah, the drafts are fun to make and they're fun to do, and then the fantasy booking that comes at the back of them is part and parcel of that. So it does give you a time to come up with something that's interesting. I've liked the little foray that we've done into the randomized versions as well, because I think there's always a bit of you have to either be fresh with the people that you're drafting, or you just risk people just drafting the same people over and over again, because we do have our tendencies. So adding a randomizer element to some of them has been fun, and it's allowed us to branch out into having to, okay, what the fuck am I going to do with Deuce from Deuce and Domino and stuff like that? So that's added an element to it. Mount Rush was great. I would like to do more, even though we only did a few of them, but I'd like to do more of the top rope lists and things like that, which allow us to both do a mixture of ranking and discussion. I always like it when, even though I think that we sometimes do have some very good uncoordinated discussions, I do think the best comes out of us when we have a fixed goal in mind, when we are doing something, whether it is ranking something or it's a clear point of discussion, rather than letting to just devolve into just a load of separate talking points. But that's the way that we work. We talk a lot, so it's always going to go down in those directions anyway. But yeah, things like that are always the ones which I look most forward to recording. So hopefully that comes through in the actual performance of them as well.
One of the things that I've liked a lot that we've toyed around with this year, and this was the first year that we actually did this as like an official combo thing. I do like doing the combo top rope list Mount Rushmore concept, because it just expands it a little bit more. I mean, we can make the top rope list, and then you already have a basic idea of the Mount Rushmore. And then when we start getting into, the multiple different Mount Rushmores and the idea of like, okay, well, we got our list of 10 for this, but we could also do the Mount Rushmore of the worst, or we could do the Mount Rushmore of the men's versus the women's versus the tag team versus the whatever. Like, I always have fun doing those. I do like Superstar scores, and I wish we had more time to do some more of those, because those are fun too. And tier lists, of course. Every year, I think at this point, we're pretty much going to, like, around the October time, do the, breakdown of the rosters and all. It seems like it's becoming a tradition. There's a lot of things on here that I'm not the biggest fan of, and that brings us to the least favorite or, worst sort of segment. Not a whole lot of votes on that one, thankfully, for people that, you could have opted to not vote on that. The ones that did get votes, though, were Battle of the Brands, Belt or Bury, which is funny because there's the one positive and the negatives. Call the Spot on the card, the drinking game thing, which we didn't really do anything about. I did it the one time, and it's just up on the site, so it's not something that we focus on. One vote for the Fantasy League, vote for the mailbag, vote for the heel or face turns, the releases, the suspensions, the Royal Rumble stats. I don't know why somebody voted for that as their least favorite thing. It's just statistics. You don't need to click on it. Smark Madness tournament, the tier list, the what if, the wrestling women's weekly, and the roster hierarchy. Now, from my perspective, the thing I don't like doing is TV coverage, but that's mostly just a matter of, it's frustrating to watch a TV show and then to type out what happened. And I know it's a major part of this type of work. The coverage is a necessity, and, the pay-per-view stuff is stuff that, like, that's the bread and butter of like trying to get the clicks on everything. So sometimes it's really frustrating to be like, I don't really want to watch that pay-per-view, but I have to. So if I were to go like my least favorite things to do, those can be those, because I just don't feel like watching them all the time. But, none of the gimmicks or anything that I dislike. That's the reason why they're on the site. It's because I think they're fun. So I like doing things that we haven't done much of. Like, we haven't really done like a Wrestling is 2020 discussion, or, we don't really do anything with the fan announce table as much as we could do, because realistically we could technically do at least one fan announce table a month if we wanted to, but a lot of the times I'm like, why would we watch that match right now? Give me a reason to watch it. That's why we like to do the Royal Rumbles at the beginning of the year. We like to do like maybe a Money in the Bank around that time frame. But I'd like to watch more things like that. And, you know, as far as like the least favorite things go, though, well, I'll come back to this, but the weeklies are something that I'm thinking about. But how about you guys? Anything stand out or like, you know, not really digging that as much as I used to or anything?
I think it's high time that you move away from coverage on SmackDown. Yes, I joked that I sometimes use your abbreviated coverage to catch up on things, but I think it's high time that you don't like doing it. Fuck it, it's your site. Don't do it.
Right.
Like it's yours. Do what you want to do. Have fun. God knows you get paid to do that stuff elsewhere. So don't bother.
What about you, Callum?
I'm trying to see if there's anything in particular that doesn't really catch my eye. I mean, most of the stuff I like to do like sporadically. Obviously, wouldn't want to do loads of play the games or anything like that. But that's how it is to do sporadically.
Anything can get tiresome if you do too much of it. Even when it comes to like the Mount Rushmores and stuff. If we did that like once a week, we'd be like, all right, we're fucking sick of it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I've always made my feelings clear about this, and some people would disagree, and I know you really like it. So I'm not saying we should stop doing it. I don't like the mailbag. I don't. I think that and in this case, I'm challenging people. I'm challenging people to make the mailbag interesting. Essentially, what I'm going to do.
Yeah,
because I think that's very fair.
And I think that's definitely a criticism of like, it's not something that we can really necessarily do. That's why we've combined it with the hot tags at this point. But we would like the mailbag to be more fun the way that it kind of used to be a little bit, where we used to get some wackier questions and we used to get some more in-depth, like, all right, you really have to think about this, about whether it's pro wrestling or not, because this is kind of our little foray into the All Talk show in some ways, and some people like that, but you know, you got to give us something to work with. We do it live now too, so
and I've appreciated now the way that we're doing it now, which is kind of in combination with the hot tags when we do the mailbags now. So that at least that gives us other things to talk about when like some of the questions either we skip by or just don't have a huge amount of interest in. But yeah, and it means that we get another episode of the week, which is something that I would probably end up prefer doing. So yeah, I think that the mailbag has taken a bit of a slide in the last year or two, to the point where it's just like, it's okay. Like, do we even need to do any more? Are people asking enough questions? Do we get enough of a diverse enough range of questions to make it worthwhile doing, or should we just, do something else instead?
Mm-hmm. Moreover, we've determined at this point that it's like 8 to 10 of you that want to ask us questions. If there were more people that wanted to ask a wider variety of questions, maybe we could keep doing it. But for now, I kind of agree with Callum. I don't think something that needs to go on. Kind of echoing what I said before. This is our little playground. We might as well just do what we want,
Yeah, so one of the possible changes when it comes to this year is maybe not necessarily any more mailbags. That's one of the things that I was thinking about. And the reasoning behind it is mostly because of what we're talking about. It's like, well, if we do it live and we combine it with the hot tags and we get some questions that are kind of on par with what we've gotten before and all that, if it's a big enough question that we're really particularly interested in, we could do a whole separate thing about it. If somebody were to be like I know that, for instance, one of the things that somebody's brought up recently was that they would really want to know what the favorite 25 wrestlers are for us, or like a top 100 wrestlers list or something. And it's like, well, we're not going to do that on a hot tags episode. We're not going to say, here's my top 100. Here's Callum's top 100. Here's Rob's top 100. No, we'll do a top rope list for that. So it wouldn't be a mailbag, So
I'm on board with the idea of no more mailbag. Because Peter, Frankie, Marco, the regulars know how to find us and ask us questions. So I would be open to that returning if we somehow had a boom where a lot of people suddenly want to know what we're on about.
Or if we had like something in the hot tags where if we have been sent a couple of interesting questions, we just answer a couple in the hot tags every
just
week or
a
whatever.
regular, like, you know, hey, you send a mailbag through the feedback of the site, and then, hey, by the way, one of the hot tags for this week is we got a mailbag question from what? Yeah, like,
that seems like the best way to do it.
I think that that's going to be a change going forward for sure, because hey, this is all in the interest of making things better. So, for instance, if people are not liking, we got 3 votes here for Battle of the Brands. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. There's 2 votes for the releases list and the suspensions list. Now, those aren't going away because those do get clicks, and they are half of what, like, well, I don't know, let's say half, maybe a third. The way that I kind of approach the Smark Out Moment, and it's been this way from the start, and it's leaning more towards it even more now than ever before. Smark Out Moment to me has always been a site for opinions more than anything else. But I've also always been like, you know, it annoys me if I don't see this resource somewhere. So that's why you get things like the Royal Rumble statistics page, which, motherfucker, that's something that people steal all the time. And, you know, there are entire sections of Wikipedia that aren't attributed to me that I know for a fact people have copied and pasted from mine, because they have the exact same information only after I post it. You know what I mean? So I've wanted to get a little bit more into making Smark Out Moment a resource website and less of the TV coverage stuff and more of the opinions and stuff. So we're going to see more of that going forward, and we'll come back around to that too. But for anybody who says, like, you know, my least favorite thing is something like, you know, call the spot on the card. Well, I do 3 quick little editorials a year on it. And if you don't like it, don't click on it. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm glad that that's the case. And, you know, we might play around with some more ideas going forward. You might like them. You might dislike them. I don't know.
I just overall, like, this is your baby. And I think it's, like I just keep saying, I think
that's
it's
my
time.
My preteen at this point.
You know, I think it's just time to, like, do with this what makes Tony happy.
Yeah. And obviously I do want to get everybody else to enjoy it. That's the point. It's not just for me. It's for everybody else too. But that's why I give you a fan feedback survey thing. And if you didn't voice your opinions, then I don't know what you like, and then I can't give it to you. So for anybody who didn't, go ahead and, you know, vote on this while you can. But going over some of the other things that are on here, it seems like most people still coming across us through search engine type, just, you know, randomly came across you through a random search type thing. We're still got a little bit of that split between people that just read the articles, people that just listen to Smack Talk, people that do both. I still would love to see it be 100% on both, but, you know, some people say, and this is what I don't quite understand here and there, especially with, like, all these years of promoting things and how much it's plastered all over the place. When people will say they didn't know that the podcast existed, it's like, what do you mean that you didn't know the podcast existed? You can go on smarkoutmoment.com. It's all over the fucking place. But I see, like, you know, people don't have the time to listen to podcasts. Okay, yeah, I understand that. Some people say that they don't necessarily like reading articles, or they have, like, some reading comprehension issues, so that's why they listen to the podcast more, and, you know, that's understandable too. I'm glad that there wasn't any votes, at least this time around, of, like, I don't like the podcast after I've listened to it, or, you know, I don't like the writers on the site, or, you know, any of those things. But yeah, that's always good to read. People saying about their favorite places to discuss pay-per-views. Mostly votes for the Mega Maniacs, which is cool. You know, Mega Maniacs Facebook group is a good place to chat. You got the live chat on YouTube during the pay-per-view post shows. You got the comment section on the website. You got the comments on the YouTube videos. Some people saying that they just don't like talking about the pay-per-views at all, which, you know, totally makes sense. I like that
neither does you.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody voted just with their friends, which, you know, I mean, fair enough. But, what would you like to see more of with the articles on the website? And this is one of those good things where people vote like more of everything. I like more of everything. So more non-WWE and non-AEW coverage, more opinions, more gimmicks, more pay-per-view coverage, more breaking news, etc., etc.
You just joined to cover Impact, and I'm like, all right, have at it,
We just brought a new member of the team on board, Cherry, who will hopefully be covering Impact stuff in some fashion going forward, and maybe some other stuff too, like WoW was something that Cherry had brought up. So, we've got that going on. There were more votes for, this is a new question that I put out there, which was, should we get rid of the Women's Wrestling Weekly segment? And I was kind of trying to gauge what people's responses are for it. And this is a breakdown. 75% of the votes went for I'm indifferent about it. 25% of the votes went to not a fan of it, get rid of it. And 12.5% went to, I don't read the articles, I just listen to the Smack Talk. So there are no votes towards, yeah, keep it, I really like it. Which means I'm 99.999% sure that we're getting rid of Women's Wrestling Weekly. The thought process behind this for me is multiple ways. One being, Dallas does a lot of coverage for a Smark Out moment. This guy is always covering Raw. He's covering Dynamite. He's covering SmackDown. He's doing the spearheading the Triple Threat. He's doing the Battle of the Brands. He's doing this Women's Wrestling Weekly thing. And I know that he recently wrote an article that he just, a random editorial that he enjoyed. And I was like, yeah, I'd like to see more of that. So I would like to take some things off of his pressure. And the Women's Wrestling Weekly thing, it's not the bread and butter of Smark Out moment. If you really are looking for like a supremely dedicated coverage to women's division pro wrestling all across the board, there are better resources out there. I'm not going to be the type of person that goes, oh, this is the website that's for it. No, you go to Diva Dirt. They're better.
And Wrestling Talk, Ring the Bell.
Yeah, there's podcasts that are dedicated directly to it. And why would I want to take away a small portion of that when that's their bread and butter? And I would want people to do the same when it comes to my stuff, So not that I'm going to really, I'm going to help them out so much by getting rid of Triple W on this, but yeah, we're going to get rid of it. There's room for better discussion points, and there's room for editorials about that too. If people want to write up something about like the top 10 best things that happened in women's wrestling this week, you can just write up an editorial about it. It doesn't have to be a weekly thing, because at this point, kind of the breakdown to it isn't the way that it was originally intended, which was going to be like a supremely dedicated, here's your resource for every match that could have happened in the mainstream companies things. And it kind of devolved into just like, all right, this match happened. So I don't think we're going to be missing it this year. I think it's a necessity to go away.
As is Battle of the Brands, because what the fuck is a brand split?
That's another thing too, which Battle of the Brands was an interesting idea, an interesting concept. We even did a shoot off for it, or spinoff. I don't know, shoot off of offshoot. Yeah. An offshoot spinoff. There you go. Of the Wednesday Night War when that had happened. But the Wednesday Night War stopped. And now we're at a point that the brand split is kind of pointless too. Like, there isn't even Survivor Series. So why are we comparing Raw and SmackDown with each other when WWE doesn't even care? Yeah, there's some people that I'm sure are going to be disappointed that, the Battle of the Brands isn't comparing those two anymore. But I honestly, and I'm not going to be belittling the people that do like these things and stuff, because thank you for coming to the site and supporting me and everything. I don't think that there's going to be that many. We've done how many of these at this point? How many Battle of the Brands has this been? Let me try to figure that out while you're talking.
The brand split started in 2016, so that's probably quite a while. I don't know when exactly it started, but it's probably been going for quite a bit. But yeah, I concur. It's very much now an integrated WWE thing now. There's a lot more fluidity, especially the fact that the world champion appears on both shows, admittedly more on SmackDown than Raw, but you've got unified world champion, you've got unified tag team champions. There's very little to distinguish the two of them. And realistically, at the moment, SmackDown would win all the time because it's got Sami Zayn on it. Even he appears on Raw quite a lot now as well. So, yeah, I don't think there's a huge amount of need for it.
There are 315 of these posts.
Wow.
Of Battle of the Brands.
It had a good run.
It had a longer run than the 24/7 championship.
Yeah.
It looks like we started this on August 29th and 30th for the start of that in 2016. So yeah, I mean, look, if you want to justify it this way, we ran from the beginning of this new brand split to the point past when they stopped doing the Battle of the Brands at Survivor Series. I think that's a good enough time to, old yeller it. Kind of. That's an awful way of saying it, but it's true. It's putting it down.
We could old yeller it, or we could repurpose it.
You want to make it WWE versus AEW?
No, we'll talk about it at a later date. I have ideas for that.
You just mean the name?
Yeah, because I like the name.
I like the name as well.
I think the name could be used for something else.
Yes, I agree with that.
But we haven't set it on stone yet.
I'm almost 100% positive that you actually made up the name. I think I had pitched it to you guys and said, like, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And I think that you, Callum, had said, like, what about Battle of the Brands? And I was like, fuck, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I want to keep the name.
Yeah.
But we don't need to do it that sort of article. It's not need that one. But there are other ways that we can use that.
Yeah, I mean, we can repurpose things and all, just the same as, WWE took Heatwave from the ECW, made it a live event tour, then turned it into an NXT show. Hey, if you click on Battle of the Brands logo or label on the website and it brings you to a different thing, then you just going forward, it's this. And, there you go. So, that's something we're going to put on the back pocket for now, at least. I'm not sure when it comes to the triple threat. And to be perfectly honest, it's one of those things that I like a lot, but I can see why there might not necessarily be a reason to keep it around.
I like it. At one point, I was spearheading it. I've been a part of many of them. I wouldn't be disappointed to see it go away. There's my 2 cents. This is one of the ones where I think it's good either way.
I think again, if you're being quite open about it, it's one of those things that had a uniqueness to it early on because there were multiple different contributors. Now it has kind of devolved into the same 3 or 4 people over and over again. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not fun having like this is the triple threat crew. I always think it would work better as a podcast.
Yep, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Which that's another whole thing too, because that requires a lot of editing. And,
all of these would work better as podcasts. Let's just they would.
Some article, the Power Rankings doesn't work as a podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Power Rankings is pretty solid. That's the one that it's another thing that, to be perfectly honest, to peel back the curtain a little bit. When I look at the way that I've laid out the site and stuff, I'm like, if I get rid of Battle of the Brands, then I get rid of Triple Threat and I get rid of Triple W, the weekly section will be hot tags and triple Power Rankings. And I'm like, I wonder how I can balance that out a little bit. But because I think that Power Rankings is just like, Callum's got that down to a T. Like, why would I mess anything up with that,
Yeah, I've heard people say they want to have an AEW version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when Twitch, I said to them, give me money.
Yeah, sponsor it through the Patreon, people. I'll give that money directly to Callum if that's the case.
Yeah, literally, if someone sponsors to it and says the reason why I'm sponsoring is the Power Rankings, even if it's like one person on the $10 tier, I will literally start doing an AEW Power Rankings. Frankly, I'd rather do an AEW Power Rankings than a WWE one. But I'm kind of
people know that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of signing with the WWE one, but it's not like it takes up a huge amount of my time, but I want to see an incentive behind doing it. And I wouldn't even ask Tony for the money. I'd want just the money to come into the website. It's just a case of I want to see that there is an actual it's not just someone saying, "Oh, why aren't you just doing an AEW one?" It's like, well, if you really want it, you know what to do. It's like, and yeah, I know, like, times are tight. I don't want to be like a Tyler saying like, "Oh, just always people give us money. We know what circumstances people are in." So I don't want to be like that sort of name, but you know, there needs to be shown some sort of level of commitment into doing it, because if I just start doing it and nobody starts and nobody's reading it, then what's the point? I'm just wasting my time.
You're like shouting into a void, sort of. And
I write a lot during the week already. That's my day job. I spend 37 hours a week doing that stuff. I'm not going to the power rankings is enough, and then I'm recording podcasts and doing other stuff as well. It's like, you know, if the incentive's there, it's definitely on the table. Nothing is off the table. Just need to see that level of like desire for it.
Yeah, money talks in a way that other things don't. And yeah, even if it would come down to like a non-monetary thing, like if it would just be like, okay, well, every time that there's like another edition of the power rankings, there's like 40 comments of people being all like, you know, contributing to it and talking about their rankings and all, like, to where it would be like, oh, you know, there is like enough response here that maybe that would be the case. Like, you know, the more support you put behind something, the more that you can put behind it in other ways. So yeah, I mean, you know, if we think of any changes, like, you know, tweaks that go to that or something, then that's something to think about in the future. But definitely something going into 2023 that's happening is Battle of the Brands is going on hiatus, at least. Women's Wrestling Weekly, it's either going on hiatus like indefinitely, or it's gone entirely, or it's going to be, you know, repurposed in a different fashion, but it's definitely not going to be a weekly thing. You know, if somebody wants to do like a recap of something here and there, it'll just be a random editorial. And Triple Threat, I'm about 90% sure that I'm going to be putting that on hiatus as well. Especially because if you figure the Triple Threat, if it's better in podcast form, the three of us do a podcast. So it's like we're the Triple Threat at this point, you know.
We are Triple Threat. Thank you.
I do want it to be clear that none of that is based off of anything that is on Dallas for any of those, because he has just been awesome for that stuff. So
amazing.
Yeah, he's great. And I want to see him do more fun editorials that he can have fun with by taking these things off of his plate, to just be like, all right, you know, you don't need to focus any time on this, you know, have more fun. I'd rather him, for instance, if he wanted to, of course, because it's all volunteer based stuff, I'd rather him, instead of doing 3 weekly posts that he feels almost like obligated to do, I'd rather him write one editorial that he had fun with. I'd get more out of it. He'd get more out of it, you know.
That's what this is. This is fun.
Yeah, this is supposed to be fun for people. It's supposed to be, you know, money for me, but it's mostly fun instead of that, because, you know, fucking Google. You know, it was really depressing when I was looking at my tax information earlier, and I'm like, oh man, I made more through a couple gambling sponsored posts than I did through the entirety of Google for this year. That means Fanboys Anonymous, Smark Out Moment, and both sides of the podcasts.
Oh, not related to Smark Out Moment, but next year we are definitely doing more with Smark Out Moment. That was sad that we went from doing all this shit last year to doing next to nothing.
You mean Fanboys?
Yes, that's what I meant. I don't know what I said, but that's what I meant.
Yeah, I definitely want to do more of that. So backtracking again to the fan feedback thing, what is your preference for the Smack Talk podcast? I had the options on there of everything that I could think of, you know, Amazon Music and Anchor and Spotify and Stitcher and all that. The majority on YouTube. And then you've got a little bit of a split between Spotify and iTunes and people that don't necessarily listen to Smack Talk at all, and they just read the articles. So I'm liking that people are on YouTube. I think that's my preference overall. It's a little bit easier, and it's something that can be monetized more and stuff. So if you are listening to this on like Google Podcasts or something, I mean, thank you for listening, but go on to YouTube. We have more fun there. It's meant more for YouTube than anything else. It's weird to say that, especially because it's like mostly static graphics, but hey, we go live on YouTube. We don't go live elsewhere. So as far as why do people prefer the audio only versions of it, people have said that it's more convenient for them to listen to in the car, which, yeah, that's one thing. But if you do have a subscription to something like YouTube Premium or YouTube Music or something, I think it might show up on there. I'm not entirely positive, but yeah, I mean, there might be different ways to do that. And some people said that it works better with their device that they like to listen to, or they don't like the ads on YouTube or something, which I have no control over when it comes to those. So I know how frustrating it is when you're clicking on a YouTube video and right in the middle of a discussion or, you know, an interesting part of it, it just goes, you know, hey, like, let's talk about Swiffer or something. And, you know, whatever that is. People liking YouTube better because of the interface and everything. So that's cool. Let's get into some of the more, you know, free discussion points here. What's missing from Smack Talk that you'd like to see us add in the future? Here are some of the things people said. Why do you ask? I love you just the way that it is. Aw. Oh. Love you too. More retro reactions live. I would like to hear more about what necessarily you mean about more retro reactions.
Want us to do more fan announce table of old stuff, but do it live?
Maybe, because I think we might have done a live fan announce table this year. I don't remember for sure.
Did we? We didn't do. Was it a WrestleMania?
No,
we did. Done that? Oh no, that's where it's yeah, we did WrestleMania 19. I don't know whether that was was that just a review? Or was that
was live. That was a live watch along. We did last year.
Okay.
So the fan announce tables that we did this year were the 2002 Royal Rumble, the 2005 Royal Rumble. We did two of them. Oh yeah, one of them was sponsored from Guest 5. Thank you for that. The 2005 Elimination Chamber match from New Year's Revolution. We did WrestleMania 21, which was a pick your poison.
2005 in this year.
Yeah, apparently 2005. Yeah, we did Damian Sandow's Money in the Bank 2013 ladder match, and then we did the fan announce table dark cast of that Undertaker home movie thing. For if anybody didn't check that out, the best fan announce table of the year. Yeah, so the idea of doing more of a live thing like that, yeah, we could try to do that.
If you show the desire for it and the views are there, I'll watch old wrestling with these guys all day long.
Yeah, if it's a fun enough event, or it's an interesting enough event, or it's something that people are like, you know, it'd be a lot of fun to do a watch along for that, let us know. Every time that I end a podcast or anytime that I talk about something, I'm always like, hey, give us your ideas, because I always want to know. If enough people say that they want to do something, then we'll do it. That's the point. There was, if possible, get some of the guest hosts to come over every once in a while.
That's fun. That's funny. That's a good joke. That's not happening from my. Eventually, maybe. Like that would be like long term. Like I'm eventually going to go.
Are they saying like they want us in the same room? Like
yeah. That's what they're talking about. I'm eventually going to go to America and I will see Tony and Rob in person.
I will see Tony relatively soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Why are you guys taking that? They mean like guest hosts like to have like Peyton and them back.
I thought that's what they meant. That I was like,
I assumed they meant this like.
If Callum wants to come to America, I'm not going to stop Callum.
I thought we were the guests, and like we're the guest hosts. Like you're the main host, and we're this like they wanted us to be in the same room. Because I know we've had some people say in the past like, "Do we record all together?" Like, yeah, that's just not happening. But if it's guest people, I would like to see. I love our trio. I think we're strongest as a three. Like we've worked together for several years at this point.
Yeah, we've got the synergy down.
Yeah. But I would like I liked it when Wago came back for that short period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like having Drew on board. Peyton's always fun, you know?
Yeah, and one of the other people had brought this up too. They said getting more people involved, like past contributors. Some remembered by name are, and that person brought it out there, Wago, Drew, Peyton, Kaylin, Angie, Miguel. I think it was funny. Sorry, I'm going to make fun of your response, but they said Dane or something, Cook maybe. Not Dane Cook. I'm not friends with Dane Cook.
Not Dane Cook. That's a shame.
I mean, he might be yada yada problematic as well. But yeah, like Dane, yeah, I mean, Dane's a buddy of mine, so it's like, I'm sure if I reach out to him, and I'm sure he's listening to this too. What's up, Dane? You know, if Dane wants to pop up for an episode or something, like, especially if we do like, you know, some random type of gimmick thing or something, and like, hey, Kaylin is just sort of like, yeah, I'd be really down to do that or whatever. Like, it's mostly an issue of like, if it's something like, you know, the predictions or whatever, we're trying to barrel through it a little bit. So the more people we have, the more it's going to go on. And also a lot of them don't necessarily watch as much anymore. So the interest isn't there. And then some other things are a matter of just like scheduling where, you know, we've got our usual recording times that we do these things. So, you know, that's the time when people are working or something. But believe me, I'm in contact with everybody on this list for the most part. And I mean, not some of the older people that have been on Smack Talk in the past, but, and do, justified cause for some of them. But, you know, the more people that are interested in having that, like, try to get some people on, you know, especially if we're doing something like a fan announce table. Like, it'd be fun to be like, all right, well, let's do a live fan announce table or something. And like, I don't know, fucking Drew pops up or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would also add to that, not to say that, again, we're kind of the nucleus of this type of thing. But if it's just a case of like just one of us wanted to, like was available for someone else to record like a guest one, whether it's Tony or more likely Tony, because obviously you're the head of this entire thing. And you said, oh, just want to do something randomly. I'll get in touch with whoever, just record something and then put it out. That's not like, I wouldn't take offense to that. Put it that way.
Yeah, even if it came down to me not being a part of it, like if you two were interested in doing something and then like, yeah, Peyton was like, oh yeah, you know, like I'm down for doing that. The three of you ended up doing it and I was too busy or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, you know, let's I'll set up the recorder then, you know. So there's ways to play around with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll reach out to everybody and let them know that you guys are interested in hearing them, because I'm sure that they would appreciate that too, to hear that. Reading another comment here, or actually it's the same comment from the same person. So let's just, this person had left a couple lines worth of the text. It's just showing up weird for me on Google Forms. I hate Google Forms sometimes. It's really stupid. They were suggesting to bring back the Sexy Superstars tournament, which, as we said before, we're not going to be doing because it's too, yeah, things have changed. So, unfortunately, I know that's something, yeah, a lot of people really did like that, but it's just not something that we're any comfortable doing anymore. Getting more videos of single commentary. Now, I'm pretty sure that this is XOY. I think that this is your response. Had brought up the idea that sometimes it's fun to just hear any of us just go off like by ourselves a little bit, which, I mean, I don't know, maybe. I like doing it with these guys, so I don't like doing them by myself.
Darkcast, Tony will go off on whatever you want.
Yeah, it's true. The Darkcast sometimes are just sort of. There's been a couple episodes of the Darkcast that it's just been me just being like, let me just rant or something, and I'll do more of them if you want me to. You know, you got some 5 a.m. version of me. Working with other channels. Hey, if other channels want to reach out, let us know. Critiquing more things.
Rob should be getting us some links to that.
Yeah, you know, I tried once. So when I was doing the shows, I wanted to do it with Tony, and I ended up doing it with Shug D. So that happened. You
have to follow us in on that when we get off the podcast.
Yeah.
I know what he's talking about, but that's yeah, definitely just fill us in a bit more about it. But I think that Rob's out of the three of us, Rob has the biggest online reputation, I would say, or the biggest online presence at the very least.
You're definitely more of the crossover guy for sure. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you've done Fightful podcasts, you've done WrestleZone, you've been doing interviews with people as well, and that's been doing some great stuff as well. Like Rob's, it's one of the best things about this year, and especially ever since it started, is Rob's development into being a person of interest for the wrestling fandom.
Mm-hmm. And shout out to you for being able to pull that off, man.
Well, thank you. As I've shared with you guys and with everybody here, 2023 is a big year, and that actually feels very good to hear going into it. So I thank you both greatly. I will never stop doing these because you guys are just the best to work with. As
I've told you many, many times in the past, you know, you're in the position you're in because you put in the work and you put in the effort. It's not just for like, you know, you got like a handout or something, you know?
Right.
You need to get better at Fantasy League stuff, though.
I definitely do.
That's true.
That's the one thing you fall down on.
Book Roman more is what the issue is here.
Another suggestion was critiquing more things to be honest and unafraid of backlash and conformity. I think that we're pretty much like we say what we're thinking.
I think we're it's one of those things.
Tony and Callum are good here. I have to watch my words a little bit more because of everything we just discussed.
That is first of all true, but second of all, I think we are very honest about when we talk about things. I don't think, but we're also people with a bit of taste and couth. I think it's like if you wanted somebody who's just going to say whatever the shit they want to say and not really care about who they offend or who they could be pissing off in the process, go listen to Jim Cornette or go listen to some other racist. I don't really care, but like I'm not going to. I think we have a level of sympathy towards people because these are real people we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, we will criticize characters and criticize matches, but at the end of the day, these are real people. We shouldn't be super over the top with our levels of criticism towards them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that I have like unfiltered opinions on my podcasts or my articles because I do put through a little bit of a sieve, but at the same time, I'm not sifting everything. There's still some chunks there, you know.
Yeah.
Review others and others' contents. I'm not sure what you mean by that one, so maybe clarify in the comments.
I mean, I'm not gonna like review another podcast. Listen,
I fan out table on another podcast.
Yeah, that'd be funny to do that. Video content for YouTube to watch while listening. Yeah, I do want to get more into that. That's something that I say a lot when it comes to, hey, if you support us through the Patreon and stuff, then that money goes towards upgrading equipment and everything. Because one of the reasons why I haven't done that is because I want to try to get like some better lighting or something, and it does become more labor intensive to do more of those things. And to be perfectly honest, it's also one of those things where it's like, yeah, plenty of times when we're doing the podcast, like right now, like my hair's a mess, and I'm tired as all fuck. So I don't want to doll myself up for the camera or whatever. But the more support that we get from people that want to watch more of the video stuff, like ideally that's what it would be. And many podcasts are like that. So it's something to look into. More discussion about having the all talk show, like non-wrestling type stuff. I really, really want to do more of the all talk show. And it's just something that the support hadn't been there. So yeah, show more support. We'll do more of that. Somebody says SJSJ. I don't know what that was. just
if you're trying to say we're some kind of social justice deal, I don't think you listen to us enough.
No, I think that they just like went like typed the thing out. It wasn't a thing you needed to fill out, I think, on the form. If it was, then sorry, I clicked that wrong. But I think that might have just been like filling it out like that, because the same person, it seems, also for the next question typed ZO29. So I think they just typed random things, unless that's what we should get rid of, because that's what the question was anything we should get rid of. So fuck you, ZO29, your office work.
You're out of here.
But good responses on that one. Anything we should get rid of on Smack Talk or Smark at Moment? No, not to my knowledge. Somebody brought up the mailbag, which we just talked about. Somebody said Skype.
What are you getting your wish?
Skype, come on, guys, it's 2022. It's nearly 2023. Hey, that's the easiest way that we can record it. I've tried to look into like Discord and stuff, and it doesn't record the same way. So, again,
any other platform is going to require payment. So
yeah,
that's part of the issue.
It's free. It works well with OBS. Like, I've gotten this system down enough to the point that I do the least amount of editing that I have ever done. And I don't want to do something that requires more.
Although the day that Tony says we're done with Skype, I would probably be done with Skype as a whole. So
I only use it for the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, but yes.
Let's see what else we have on here. Is there anything we should get rid of on Smack Talk? Tony. Joke. LOL. No, in all seriousness, you guys try hard and do a great job. This person's talking about the trying not to be like getting into more of like the politics type stuff or whatever, which that's just inherently one of those part of the discussion points, yada yada, problematic and whatnot.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't always love the lack of attention for non-wrestling content. Comment section is too censored and posts erased and banned when it's already hard enough to talk to you, as you know. I don't know about what I mean, I have one filter set up on the comments of people can't post links. And that's because it's for spam. But I don't think I really delete any other kind of comments. Even when people talk about like, hey, fuck you, this isn't a good podcast, I usually keep it up. So
that's interesting though.
Yeah. If you're trying to do something and it's not going through, let me know, because maybe this person also says you might be shadow banned on YouTube because it's hard to find the content. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me.
The algorithm, the way that they are, I'm not jumping out at the beginning of our podcast and going like, hey guys, smash that like button. and like doing that weird ass shit that people like. I'm never going to do that. I don't have the fucking energy for it. And that's not me. So, you got to be fair and honest and open. I put out some segments of what are you most interested in? Some of these things we're interested in doing in the future, like that play the game, McMahon or other man thing. The making the case / devil's advocate, where it's like you got to try to argue a point that you don't necessarily agree with, which I think could be a very fun thing in the future, where it could be like, all right, like I'm going to tell Callum that he needs to argue that WWE is a better program right now than AEW. And then you're like, fuck, okay, how do I do this?
I'll find a way.
That's the point, is you got to find a way,
Yeah, you can't back me into a corner that I can't fight my way out of. I'll make it so good that you'll believe that I actually believe that stuff. But
right.
That's
so, I'm thinking about maybe playing around with that in 2023. There's Champ at the Bit. Spotlighting a wrestler that's closer to being worthy of winning a title. That probably would be more of Champ at the Bit. It's one of my favorite ones. Yeah, that's probably editorial more so than podcast. Closing the book is interesting, where we try to like fill in the blanks of a storyline that they just didn't follow through with, like who tried to attack Mr. McMahon and blow him up. Well, let's go. How would you have done it and all? So that's kind of one of those what ifs. There's Feared for Thought. There's Hold the Gold or Go for the Gold. How would you book somebody to win a particular title? So it's in the fantasy booking kind of territory. Snowball Effect is kind of like Wrestling is 2020, where we talk about a moment in history and then all the things that came out from that. So it's basically wrestling history lesson, but in a different thing, maybe podcast form. Still haven't done Quick Turnaround, where we do a tournament in one episode, like a full tournament. So that could be kind of fun. Turn the Tables. Which one was this again? I actually don't even remember. Someone gives you a switch up idea and you have to pitch the creative direction of how it would work. Yeah. So that's another like fantasy booking what if type deal. So we've got those ideas. We got other ideas that I didn't even put on here. And I'm always willing to listen to other ideas too. If somebody's like, I've got an idea for a podcast segment, let me know it. I'll give you credit for it. I asked about Fanboys Anonymous. Still people kind of 50-50. Some people just aren't interested, which, I don't blame you. You're on a pro wrestling website. Why would you necessarily be into me talking about how Black Adam sucks or something? Some talk about the Patreon and YouTube membership stuff. Mostly the idea of people not necessarily having the funds to donate, which I can't blame you for. Everything's too fucking expensive these days. I like that somebody's response was, I'm broke. All my money goes to weed.
Not Riddle, is that you?
Yeah, it might be Riddle. I don't know. Somebody saying about that they don't trust those types of things, but they would donate through like PayPal or something, which that's an option too, if you're interested. Kind of a little bit of a middle finger to the two people that voted. There's not enough incentive to donate to even the $1 tier. Hey, fuck you. Come on. I like that you're being honest about it, but at the same time, I think that we give you a lot of things at $1 a month, something that if you're like, hey, you're not worth that, then I don't even know why you're listening to us at this point. But, yeah.
That might be one of the people who does it, who just reads the
healer face turn list or something. Yeah. Maybe. Which, if that's the case and you think that that's not worth that, then, I mean, I'm going to get rid of the heel and face turn list. Haha. I'm not going to do that. But a couple of people saying that they already donate or they plan to starting soon. Or one of the things that I was thinking about, and this is something that I'm still kind of going about here and there, was possibly changing the Darkcast tier and moving that down to the $5 one. It used to be the $20 tier, it became the $10 one. Here's the thing that I am leaning towards not doing it fit, though. There hasn't been any real response from anybody that I've asked saying that would be something that they would be more interested in. And I'm like, well, the ad block forgiveness tier is there. So that's the $5 tier and whatever. And I had pitched it and people were not necessarily responsive to it. So I'm like, all right, well then I might keep that the same. But like in anything, if there is more of a response down the line, it's not something that's set in stone.
Here's my argument for just lowering it, just because if you lower it, people might just feel the incentive to subscribe, as opposed to if they see it's $10 and then they don't want to because it's $10.
Yeah, I mean, there are some episodes that I put on the $5 one for people that are in that, just to be like, hey, look, this is a little bit of a taste of what you can get and all. And I don't know if people know this necessarily, but when you get access to the Darkcast tier, you get access to the previous Darkcasts as well. So some people might think like, the $10 thing is like, I only get this 1 or 2 episodes a month or something. You can go back and check out the previous ones. So if you're missing out on those, consider donating to that. Pick a poison staying exactly where it is, because that's a time thing. So, any other feedback you'd like to give us? The things we got on here, more hierarchy updates. Yeah, I've been slacking on that.
Fuck you. Update the face and heel turns.
The heel and face turns I do constantly because everybody's just jumping on that. But yeah, I haven't been updating the hierarchy as much, so I might get around to doing that a little bit more this year. Somebody says, I really like the podcast, the way that the podcast has evolved over the years. I really think it's at its best. Thank you for that. Remember, basketballs don't hold grudges. Keep up the good work. RRII. I don't know why this person's filling out things like that. I think it was covered in the previous other questions. Peter sent us a really good message about how much he loves the podcast and all the support and everything like that. Massive shout out to Peter for all of his support over the years. Another says no to no other feedback that they'd want. And then that kind of rounds out the feedback survey. So the rest of it's just sort of on my end of things. So let me bring up some of my other notes that we got going on here for anybody that's interested. There was about a 10% increase in page views this year compared to last year. So that's cool. We got more subscribers this year on YouTube by this point than we did at the end of last year. So again, it's good that I'm not losing them. It's not nearly the rate that I want it to be, but hey, look, I'm gonna, any kind of positive is a positive. And as far as like watch hours and all that, like nobody gives a shit. That's just something that I calculated for myself. But the top posts and top videos of the year, for anybody who's interested in that, the top post is always the same because it's the resource that people click on the most, which is the WWE pay-per-view schedule. The top normal post outside of those index pages and all are the heel and face turns, of course, and the WWE roster page, the roster list of WWE tag teams. And then we start getting into, for the top 10, WrestleMania predictions, SummerSlam predictions, Clash at the Castle predictions, Money in the Bank predictions, Royal Rumble predictions, Backlash predictions, and Elimination Chamber predictions. So for all the people that are like, well, why don't you just do more of the gimmicks and less of the pay-per-view coverage? The pay-per-view coverage is the thing that keeps the site going. So, it is what it is. On the video side of things, the watch time highest top video of the year was the Hall of Fame watch along. Which makes sense.
Cool. I forgot we did that. That's awesome.
And that was the second highest one for views for the year. The number one for the views was the SummerSlam post show. Always cool to see that.
But would have been number one for the views if it didn't happen midway through the fucking hot tags. Would have been the Vince McMahon retirement.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the hot tags, Punk, and the Elite drama thing, episode 562 that we just did pretty recently. We're on 578 right now. That was the second most watched watch time video of the year. Number 3 was the roster all-time fantasy draft. Then the Double or Nothing predictions, and then the AEW and WWE mock draft. So it's cool to see that people are listening to the full mock draft episodes when it comes to those instead of just clicking off. Like to see that, of course. And then the most views, we got Double or Nothing predictions, results, WrestleMania Backlash watch along. So that does make me kind of go, whoa, maybe we should do more of these watch along things. And at this point, I'm fairly certain that's what we'll do for the Hall of Fame this year again. We'll just, SmackDown will end and we'll start the Hall of Fame watch along right after SmackDown. And then, have some fun doing that. You guys liked it, so we'll do it.
I would be open to more watch-alongs in general if the shows themselves, if we could do a Raw watch-along if Raw wasn't a 3-hour show every week,
Right, yeah. And then it's we're not going to do a watch-along of Level Up, or some half-hour show that we don't give a shit about. But maybe something more along the lines of like, I'm not saying that we'll do it for this one, but like maybe like that Battle of the Belts. Because it's an hour, right?
Yes, it is.
That's like maybe we'll do a live watch along Battle of the Belts thing or something. Yeah, maybe we will do it when it comes up on this thing. I don't know. We'll figure out what I'm up to. But definitely the Hall of Fame watch along is something I'm interested in. We did the WrestleMania Backlash watch along, and it was difficult to do it because it was a full pay-per-view and I'm juggling a lot at the same time. But and we might visit that for a lesser event, like an NXT one or maybe an ROH thing or something. I don't know. And for anybody that's curious about this is one of the reasons why I say about the whole, like, you know, the $1 a month thing is like, come on, what do you mean we don't give you enough? Spotify alone gave me this information for the end of the year thing. That by December 1st, so you figure all the content that's happened after that, 28 days worth of more content, we had done 10,142 minutes of just Smark Out Moment stuff. That doesn't include the Fanboys content, nor the Darkcast, because they aren't on Spotify. And it says that that is more than 99% of other creators in the sports category. So if you're, it's $5 a month to support a Patreon of some other sports podcast, we're giving you 99% more content in that fashion than more of the creators. We had 478% more streams on Spotify for the mock draft of AEW and WWE than our average episode. So that was definitely a hit. It's very cool to see that. Our top countries were the United Kingdom, the United States, Australia, Canada, and India. So howdy ho to everybody on those countries. 60% of our listeners were popping up more on the September 4th to 10th than the average week. I don't know what necessarily happened then. Might have been like the punk stuff or something, right? I think so.
Yeah, probably.
Only 18% of listeners are following on Spotify, but I am in the top 30% of most followed podcasts.
Because nobody follows on Spotify.
So it's weird. Yeah. Spotify refers to our listeners as the enthusiast personality style, that you guys are super fans, which makes sense.
Is accurate.
And then we got some 38% gain in hours compared to last year, 37% gain in followers, 25% gain in streams. Those positive things when it comes to that. The only new segment that we introduced this year, like officially brand new, trying it out for the first time, was the What If, which I liked and we'll probably do more of. Good. So other ideas going forward of like what you can see changing with 2023 and Smark Out Moment. One thing being something that I already put up. If you look on the top of the website, you'll see some little tweaks that I had done where right now there's a thing that says index next to segments. If you click on index, this is a page that I'm going to use as a table of contents for everything for Smark Out Moment. So this has every label that has ever been on the website that I haven't just gotten rid of. I did get rid of like the Raw post-show label because it was confusing people with the Raw label at one point. And it's got things that we don't have anymore going on. Like we haven't done the Rest Hold and the Ask Him and the Wednesday Night War and everything, but you still have that on there. It's just that it has a little bit of a strike through to let you know when it's like a retired gimmick or something. That has resources for everything. It's got the merchandise shop links, the pro wrestling companies, the TV show resources, the roster pages, etc. So that is your one-stop shop to be able to go, well, how do I find it on the website? Go to the index page. And I'm going to do the same thing for Fanboys Anonymous too. It just takes time. I've created a thing on Fanboys called Cornerstone, and that label is going to eventually apply to Smark Out Moment 2, where Cornerstone content is going to be the things that I'm like most proud of and the things that I think like are kind of evergreen. So for instance, like on Fanboys Anonymous, I've got the ranking of all of the projects from the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I keep updating. And that tier list is something that I've been working on for years. And, every time that there's a new movie, I add it to the list. Every time there's a new TV show, I add it to the list. So that's Cornerstone content. And I'm going to try to get some more of that stuff going forward too. So one of the ideas that I had going forward that we're going to work on this year, at least I am, I'm not volunteering these guys to, but if they want to, they can certainly be a part of it, would be to do that top rope list of their favorite all-time wrestlers and to try to make it a top 100 of your favorite all-time wrestlers, and to also potentially do a solo fantasy booking of you take your favorite wrestlers and whoever you want to put in there and try to do your ultimate all-time card, where it's not necessarily a mock draft. It's just like, what would you like to see if you could book anybody in anything? So, the world's your oyster when it comes to, you could have, Gunther in the main event against somebody. You could have, Hulk Hogan against AJ Styles, like whatever you want to do. Anybody in the whole history of that. And I'm thinking mostly WWE, but yeah, we can play around with it too. I definitely would like to see us do more of like the type of things that you can come back to at a later point, more like cornerstone content like that. I mentioned already the weeklies, that those things are going like that. TV results for this year are potentially going to change a little bit, maybe becoming a little bit more of editorials, because I think that could be a better way of doing that. I'm not sure about this, so let me know in the comments. Do you guys check out the featured slider? If you do, if you like it the way it is, I'll keep it. I'm thinking about making it more of an auto slider like the Fanboys pages. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to fanboysanonymous.com and you'll see it's whatever the most recent posts are. They just automatically go up there. But the current one on Smark at Moment is like, I have to manually go in there and I change it to some things here and there. I kind of got a feeling that people aren't necessarily clicking on it, and it's just a little bit annoying. So I might switch it to the auto one. If you love it and you don't want me to change it, let me know. I do want to potentially be able to have fan submissions for editorials. Just haven't figured out a system yet. So for the people that are like, I'd love to write it up, but I don't want to necessarily join the site and write on a regular basis, I'm going to try to figure something out for you. And I think that might be kind of it of what I've got going on here. I've been tweaking some things here and there, like the roster pages are going to get some slightly different looks for this year. I'm going to split up ROH and AEW a little bit. We're going to keep that long running suspension list instead of creating like a separate 2023 suspension list for WWE. Maybe we'll do more of that. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But at the beginning of the year, a whole bunch of those are going to be coming out. So at the very least, you're going to see hopefully more editorials this year and more gimmicks and less of the weeklies and more like cornerstone type content and less mailbag too.
And I think that that's a good change of pace, because I think next year could be a fun year for Smark at Moment. And I think fun on this end of things is what matters most.
So any other last thoughts you guys have?
I would just say, as I said previously, I love doing this. I love working with the two of you. I'm always appreciative of when, a Marco watches me stream, or Peter, for all the kind things that Peter has said this year to me. Shout out to you guys. It's definitely noticed. It definitely keeps us going. And I hope that next year is our best year.
Yep, always looking to evolve, improve, do more fun, interesting content going forward, and hopefully that is what we continue to do. And by making these changes, I think that's a good starting point to lead to a interesting year ahead. I think 2022 has been quite bizarre in many ways in all of wrestling.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So I look forward to a content-filled year, but maybe one that's a bit less
chaotic.
I kind of just be a good year for wrestling and a good year for Smark at Moment in general.
So not only do I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast and for those who filled out the fan feedback survey and for supporting us in whatever fashion that you do. But I definitely also want to give major, can't say that enough, thanks to Rob and Callum for being my right and left hand when it comes to this stuff. They don't get anywhere near as much credit as they deserve, and I'm infinitely thankful for them. Love these guys. And hopefully 2023 in Smark Out Moment becomes a breakout type of year. I say that all the time, but that's because that's what you were supposed to hope for and everything. And I hope that we are bringing you guys the best possible content that you are enjoying, and even more than you did this year. I thought we did a lot of good things this year. I think that we're going to do a lot more in 2023 that we're going to enjoy. And I really, really can't stress enough, you should definitely join us for the ride. So no more podcasts for 2022. And I'm going to kind of switch everything over in these next couple of days. And we're going to come back around a little bit with our one to watch episode that we do at the beginning of every year, which means who is the one to watch for WWE and for AEW and the men's division, singles competition, the women's division, and the tag teams. And then I think sometimes we usually do like, what about NXT or something? We'll play around with it if we want to or not. Sometimes we get some pretty interesting responses with that, where we end up going, Velveteen Dream is the one to watch. And then he has a fucking horrible year where everything comes to shit and we go, God damn it. And I think I've got a track record actually doing that. I think like Daniel Bryan was the pick that I did the one year where he got super injured and had to retire. And then, so maybe I got to watch out for what go with all news, but we'll come back around to that. We'll have episodes of the hot tags coming up forward, of course, going on each and every week like we normally do. And normally we do that mailbag at the beginning of the year, but like we said, we're probably not going to be doing that. So that can turn into something else. We got the 30th anniversary of Raw coming up on January 9th or 10th or something. I forget exactly when it is. There's that possibility of that international event on India. It seems like that's not going to be the case, but maybe we get into that. Finance tables. We got mock drafts. Some ideas people had pitched of different Royal Rumbles for us to do. Maybe we do more than one of them. Maybe we do other things. We got the mock draft of Royal Rumble competitors that we were thinking about doing, where you pick 20 people, then you randomly draft another 30. That could be a really fun way to mix things up a little bit. And this year we can get into a lot of other things. The 5-year anniversary of Evolution is happening this year, so we might be doing the mock draft of only the women's competitors at that point. Anything that we think of along the line, we'll be filling you in. We'll let you know. And we'll bounce back those ideas, and hopefully you guys will send us more. But yeah, that's it. That's 2022 in Smark Out Moment. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for listening to this episode and the 11,000 hours worth of other content. That's fucking crazy to think about, isn't that? Oh, yes, man. But it's a fun ride the entire time. So again, that's it for this year. We will see you next year. I know. Yeah, it's a dumb joke, but I love it. Make sure that you are following us all over the place, though, at Smark Out Moment. Make sure you are going to smarkoutmoment.com. If you are one of those people that's like, I didn't know you had articles, I only listen to the podcast, you go to the website.
And if you're one of the other people,
then you're not listening to this anyway.
Because the podcasts are there.
Right. Yeah. It's up on the sidebar. It's up on this, it's up on that. But you should also go to anthonymango.com or amangotree.com and see all the different other links that you can follow me at. And you should also follow these guys on all the other things that they are working on and their social media accounts and everything like that. Rob, fill in.
Yeah, good Lord. I cannot stress this enough. 2023 is a major year for me. I'm going to throw everything at the wall and we're going to see what sticks, boys and girls. Follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. That's on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. A lot more revamping of Twitch. There will be more in the coming year as I sort everything out, but I am so excited and really energized for the coming year, and I can't wait to see what it holds for all of us, not just me, not just Tony, but also Callum Wiggins.
Yeah, I don't know if 2023 is going to be that big for me, but you can still find everything that I'm doing with the one remaining weekly after the cull of 2022. You can check out the power rankings every single week, and who knows, if the money comes in, then we'll get an AEW one as well. But for now, you can settle for checking out the WWE listings every single week on a Saturday, and you can check out the ever expanding list of points being accrued for the fantasy league as we head towards WrestleMania and we head towards a new year. It's like the start of the new year. The first 3 or 4 months will end up deciding who's the victor at the end of it. So keep following that at WWEFantasyLeague.com.
All right, everybody. 3-hour podcast down. 2022 down. We will see you in the new year. Enjoy yourself. Have a happy holiday season and be safe. And we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.